Sorry to be a little bit late today. I had my good neighbor came over and he had some concerns. We had to lend him a hand, so it ran us a little bit late. But we are here, no problem. Day 7 of the cold water dip. Goodness, I'll tell you, man, I'm really starting to enjoy it now. The warband came over, we pushed the time up. We got started a little bit earlier this morning. We were in the water at 7:30, and we talked about it after we got out, and we're going to push it up tomorrow to 7. Some of the guys, that helps them, gives them a little bit more time. Now, before I had to go through a major surgery a few months back. I was 5 weeks into, I think it was either 5 or 6 weeks into my Wim Hof breathing program and the fitness program that I was involved in, and I was having some really good success. I enjoyed it because it was something that you can do that doesn't cost any money. You don't have to buy any equipment. You don't have to go to a horrible gym. You can do it in the comfort of your own home. And I was getting incredible results. One part of that, in addition to the cold water shower, cold water bath, whatever you can do, is the Wim Hof breathing process. It's a process of, it varies, but how I do it is you take 40 deep breaths in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth in a rhythm. No pause between breathing. You do that 40 times. At the end of the 40 times, your last breath, you exhale and you hold. You hold your breath. You hold your breath for as long as you can. When you feel the urge to breathe, when you can't fight it anymore, you take a recovery breath. Hold for 15 seconds, release, continue, and repeat 4 times. There's 4 cycles of that. Each time, as you breathe, you oxygenate the body. I guess that's what it is. That's what I used to do when I was doing a lot of swimming. And you can hold longer and longer and longer. So the warband has been joining in on this, and we're doing this together now. 2 of us held our breath today for just over 7 minutes. I wouldn't have thought that to be possible, to be honest with you. I remember as a kid in a pool, going underwater, holding your breath, maybe a minute. When I got better and when I was thinking about going into the Air Force pararescue, I was training and swimming, and I wanted to get myself where I could do a 50-meter underwater swim. And so I did that a lot. And even then, I found myself to hold my breath any more than 2 minutes. It was really pushing it. I don't know if I was able to do it much more than that. Right before I had the surgery, I was with Mrs. W, and we were driving in. She was driving, and I didn't have time to go through the breathing thing, and so I was doing it in the car. And at that time, I also held my breath for, it was close to, maybe just under, right at 7 minutes. It's an amazing thing to think that you can do something like that, and you could do it as well. Just what the human body is capable of is absolutely fascinating. What I do, there was 3 of us this morning. We all sat together, and I said, this is not a competition. We got in the water, 3.5 minutes or so, got out, dried off, and then went directly into the Wim Hof. And I had one on my right, one on my left, and I told the guys, I said, this is not a competition. Just do the best you can. What we'll do is, the first man that taps out, we'll start round 2. So, okay, that was the deal. So I held the tap on my arm at 2 minutes, right? So we start and then with 2, and then about 3 minutes or so, and then the guy on the left that had to leave early to go to work. So there was just 2 of us, my buddy on the right and myself, just sitting together. Round 3, I think it was 4 minutes, maybe 4 minutes or so. And I told him, I said, now this last round, I'm going to go longer. I've been practicing this a little bit. So when you can't stand it anymore, the last round, just go ahead and exhale, do your recovery breath, and then just chill out, just relax, and just go to normal breathing, and we'll just relax and kind of meditate for about 3 minutes to 5 minutes or so. Well, I have the Wim Hof app, right? So the app is going, and it's giving you a bell every minute, counting down. And when you double tap it to end it. So we're at 2 minutes. We're at 3 minutes. Now, this is holding your breath. 4 minutes. 5 minutes, I'm expecting the tap, right? 6 minutes, really expecting the tap. 6.5 minutes, I'm starting to suffer. But I'll be darned if I'm not, this is not a competition, right? Well, sometimes, you know, just the way that it is. I'll be darned if I'm going to tap out early or start the timer. 7 minutes. 7 minutes, the bell goes off. I'm reaching for my phone. I'm done. I don't care anymore. Just that very moment, I feel the 2 taps on my arm. Thank goodness. But that's an amazing thing, isn't it? An absolutely amazing thing. I looked at him and I said, have you ever done that before? And this was his first time doing it. Never done it before. He said, no, I never knew it was possible. It absolutely shocks me that was possible. But there you have it. Makes you wonder, what is it that you're capable of? What is it that we're capable of? We got the blacksmith shop moved down. You probably watched a short video. Mr. Brian came over and about 10 o'clock or so, I was working out on the irrigation and stuff and got started. And when I came down here to start the live stream, I said, so how did it go today? Did you get any work done on your knife? And he said, well, unfortunately, we put the anvil right where the sun came up, and the sun was on me. And you know, it's not very fun when you're working with a hot forge and hot steel. To be standing in the sun is just not really a good option. So we're going to have to figure out something different with that. Good news is I went on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe I mentioned this yesterday, and found a 14 by 16 wall tent. I've been very curious, or very keen on getting another one. You know, the last one we lost in the winter, because we had an unusually high snowfall. My fault, user error, and it was ruined because of that. So we won't make that mistake again. But we're going to be putting up the 14 by 16 canvas wall tent. Really, really nice white duck tent with the wood stove and all of that. And the idea is we'll get the blacksmith shop kind of set up in there for the summertime. Another thing I'm really looking forward to is I think we'll continue doing this. I think there's going to be more men that join us with this. I see it. Wouldn't surprise me if someday we come down here in the morning, 7 o'clock, we just make it a routine. Guys join in and that want to be part of this, we'll invite them, and that would be cool. It would be something to see 12, 14, 15 guys all participating and receiving the benefits of this. If we do something like that, if we do open it up, this is going to be for men only. So it will not be co-ed. I do not agree. I don't think it's appropriate for men and women to do activities like these together. I don't have anything in common with women. I have no interest really in what they have to say. We're just different creatures. Nothing against them. The only woman's opinion that I have interest in is my own wife and my daughter. Outside of that, I think women should be educated separately from boys. I'm not saying that they shouldn't receive educations, but men and women learn different. So we'll see. It's hard to know. But we were talking about if we continue this on, and if it comes into the fall and the winter time and the temperature drops and it's raining outside, I think we all agreed. I don't mind at all getting in the river in the winter time. If it's raining or snowing, I think that would actually be even cooler. But I don't necessarily want to be out in the elements after I get out of that frozen water. I would like to have a respite, right? A refuge, and that will be the wall tent. So we'll put the wall tent here, and that will have the wood stove going. So my idea is to I'll come down early, get down here like at 5 or so, get the tent warmed up, and then as the war band shows up, we will do this together, and then we can go right into Wim Hof breathing and all of that. In addition to that, what I'd like to get back into is it's really a threefold program. It's the cold water immersion. I think 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes is a good time, but I think once a week it's good to extend it, to push it a little bit further. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can build up to and take. I don't want to do that every day, but I think that'd be reasonable. And then go into the breathing. The benefits of that have just been absolutely amazing. It's one thing that's been common to all of the members of the war band that they all mentioned is that, man, when I come out of that cold water and do the breathing, I have an appetite like nobody's business. I'm eating double what I normally eat, and I've had the same experience. You are so hungry that you go, it's like 8, 9, 10 eggs, half a dozen pretty good sized pancakes, butter, all that stuff. It's just incredible. But don't gain weight. Stay lean, maintain my weight, and just eat copious amounts of food. So I wondered, I don't know if this is true or not, but I wonder if any of you that would like to lose a few pounds and you're not really too keen on getting out and running around or jogging or any of that nonsense. I wonder if a guy were to get into a 2-a-day cold immersion, if that would help a guy lose some weight. And maybe you wouldn't even have to change your diet a whole lot. Maybe, be reasonable, cut out the sugars and the cookies and all that stuff. But I wonder if just the metabolism gets kicked into overdrive by when you're in there fighting for your life in that cold water. I don't know. I don't know. All right, gentlemen, let's jump into it. It looks like we have an update from Evan at Radio Made Easy regarding the Proho radio kits, the 3 radio kits. The update is this: the remaining original 100 pre-order radio kits will be completed and sent out this week. So if you haven't received your Proho radio kit, there you have it. It will be out there this week. The rest will be done and sent out by the end of next week. So what happened was we originally were going to only do a run of 100, and those pre-sold. Well, there was so much interest in that, and the guys that missed out on that really wanted to take part of it. So Evan very graciously said, okay, I'll open it up again for a couple more days for pre-orders, and he did that. Now, understand that Evan, he's a one-man show. It's him and his small family are running this business, and he is producing these kits as fast as he can. So we really appreciate your patience. Evan appreciates your patience, but he's working as fast as he can, and they will be out there. One thing I wanted you guys to know that Mr. Overton brought to my attention, he said, Evan is spending a lot of time in the Signal chats, in the private chats of you members, of helping people, answering questions, hours and hours and hours of his time free of charge. And he's a tremendous resource, and that, again, just speaks to his character. I'm just so happy that he stepped up or volunteered to come and to do this for us. I'm happy that you guys have been really loving your radio kits, and just hang in there and be patient. They're working as fast as they can, and those are going out. So if you were in the original 100, you could expect to have your radio shipped this week, according to the latest bit of info that I have. Also, for those of you who missed out, we are in the talks putting together a second run. Now, Mr. Overton sent me, of course, we're going to do something with each one of these orders. Whenever we do something, we're going to have a unique, the patch, like a tactical patch. You know how we did with the first one with picture me with the night vision? That will be unique to that individual order. They sent me the artwork to the next one, and I have to say it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm super excited about it. I can't share it with you now. It's so good that I think we should feature it on maybe even a t-shirt or something. We'll see where that goes, but that will be unique. So what we're kind of thinking, and we haven't nailed it down yet, is we're going to do, instead of the 3 radio kit, we're going to do 2 kits. One is going to be a single Bofang kit. So if you already have radios, or you just don't have a need or a desire to have 3 radios, it'll be the single kit. You'll get the patch. You'll get some cool stuff. We'll do some things that are just very unique and custom. And we're also going to have a high quality option. So if you are not comfortable with the Bofang, if you want something that's going to be a little bit more water resistant, a little bit more durable, we're going to make that available. It's going to be more expensive, obviously, but that's kind of what we're looking. We haven't finalized it, but I'm just letting you know kind of ahead of time what we're doing and what the guys are working on behind the scenes. So be ready for that, and those will be limited, and you want to be able to jump on that when that comes up. Also, I missed a super chat this week or yesterday, and I apologize for that. Right when I hit, my finger was pushing the end stream button, I saw something coming through, and so we want to start off with that. So I hope, that was from our friend Simon. So Simon, I hope you're still here. I'm sorry for missing your super chat, but Simon wrote, or had a question. Hi, Mr. Wranglerstar. I'd like to start a prepping group with some like-minded friends, and I would like some ideas on how to propose the idea to them and lead the group. You know, I think you got to make it fun. That's the main thing. You may have been thinking about this for a long time, and worked out the details. I want to do this, and I want to do training, and I want to get up to speed in radios, and I want to go up and try all this stuff, you know, and you might, it just might be too much for a lot of dudes. What I would do is I would start with a common interest, whatever that might be, you know, firearms, or it could be radios. Start with a common interest and plan something that is going to be fun. And I would also, you know, there's going to be wives at home that are, their husband, let's say you find a guy and he's going to become part of your war band and part of your group, right? And he's leaving and his wife's like, no, what's going on? You know, what are you guys doing? You know, are you guys up to no good? You know, what's happening? Not that we should be in fear of our wives. I'm not saying that, but I think we should be respectful. I think it would be a good idea to have something for the women as well. So get on board with your wife, and women and men should be segregated in these type of situations. There's no need for us to be together all the time. We spend enough time together. It's nice to have some time with just men, and have something for the ladies as well. It might be a tea, a social. It might be just getting together to visit. You know, women are pretty happy just to get together and visit and let the kids run around, have a safe environment and you guys can kind of get together. So build something around that's going to be really important. So maybe you're into overland, maybe you're into dirt bikes, whatever. And that's going to be easier to get them over there. When they're coming over because they enjoy whatever the topic is, they're more likely to come. If you're just introducing new subjects that they've never heard of, that they may or may not be interested in, it may be difficult to get guys to stick. So I would kind of start with that, and then just put yourself out there and just reach out. There's nothing wrong. If you don't have any friends or a friend group, or you're uncomfortable or you're a little bit shy about that, there's nothing wrong with putting out an ad in Facebook Marketplace. Putting on a class. Let's say that you're pretty good at cutting firewood. A lot of dudes are interested in that. You can put out and say, hey, I'm putting on a basic how-to chainsaw class. Do the preparation, get a couple logs out there, whatever. I'm just giving you some ideas. If you don't have anyone and you don't know anyone, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. That's how I got tied in with a really good group of guys with snow biking. I bought a snow bike. I didn't really know anybody that did it, or the guys I knew were more advanced, and I didn't want to go with guys that were going to take me up and wreck me. I went on Facebook, and there was a guy that had actually been doing that, you know, that was organizing trips, and now I have these friends, and had I not took a risk and reached out, I wouldn't have enjoyed that. So you've got to put yourself out there. Now remember, beloved, that the adversary wants to keep us separated and segregated. He wants us to keep us alone and afraid. When we're together, we draw courage from one another. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That's what the good book tells us, and that's very true. Shout out to Simon. Mr. Back 40 Fab, we have a brand new member. Welcome, brother. We sure do appreciate you supporting us here. And Mr. Overton, we have a $20 super chat. To him, he writes, it's amazing what we are actually capable of. At one point, I thought I could only do about 70 push-ups. But get the proper motivation from a couple drill instructors, and you can measure your push-ups in hours. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Look at David Goggins. Look at some of those guys, what they've been able to achieve. I don't remember the number, but it was an incredible, it was in the thousands at how many, when he set out to set the record for pull-ups. I mean, how many pull-ups can you do? I mean, if I were to we're here and grab this tree branch here, I mean, I might be able to rip out 12 or 15, maybe 20, you know, but not too many more than that. And here he's doing thousands. So we sell ourselves short. Would you have believed that a man could hold his breath for 7 minutes? Because I did it. I did it today, and so did my buddy, and he's never even practiced before. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. What else can we accomplish? You know, I'm fond of telling this story. When our Lord was doing his ministry, he was doing incredible things. And the disciples looked on and they marveled. Said, "Oh, this is incredible. Raising the dead, healing leprosy, doing all the things that he did." He said, "Oh, you think this is amazing? Just wait. In the end times, in the final days, I tell you, God's people, my remnant, they'll do much greater than this." That's us, beloved. If we're faithful and we trust, who knows what God has in store for us when he pours his Spirit out upon us. We need not be afraid. The devil would have us think that we're on the defense, that we're weak. that he's stronger, and the temptation is something that we just can't resist. It overcomes us. That's not true. We can have mastery over these things. But the thing is we can't do it on our own steam. We try to do it on our own steam, and that's where we fail. We have to partner with him. We have to plug into the life giver. And that's when we really start to create, we're able to do amazing things. Mr. Mike B, shout out to you, Mike. Mike says, any Amazon Prime deals you thought were good? I don't know. I haven't, I didn't look today. I guess it is Prime Day. I don't know. My cup runneth over. I don't need, there's not much that I need, to be honest with you. Thank you, Mike. Oh, the Delta Pro is $27.99 today, usually $3,600. Yeah, that's a very good deal. I wish I would have known about that. That's a big discount. Yeah, that's almost, goodness, that's almost $1,000 saving at the Delta Pro. The Delta Pro is the big EcoFlow backup or electric inverter. People get mad when I call it a solar generator, but it is essentially a solar generator when you plug it into a solar panel. But yeah, that's good. If you want to have, there's really, I think, two of the best options that a guy could have. I think everyone should have a backup generator, for sure. A Honda 2000 is something that I would put on the top 100 of things that every pro host should have eventually. A gas generator is not always ideal, especially if you want to remain quiet. Is there anything more insufferable than the boomers that run those gas generators at the trailer park, not the trailer park, the RV park, or when you go camping? You try to get out of the chaos of the city just to go up there and deal with morons running generators all the time. I absolutely detest it. I don't go anywhere near those people. Avoid those type of places. You go find your own place that's private and secluded. If everyone were to have, it's so much nicer. You need power to have one of those solar generators. Absolutely silent. You can throw out the 400-watt panel. It recharges itself. They really are fantastic. We use our EcoFlows around here almost on a daily basis. We have a super chat from the Stouffer. Thank you, brother. No comment, just a super chat. And Jamie, welcome, Jamie. Good to see you here. Jamie writes, do you still use job boxes? PS3 watches? Well, you know, I mean, I'll tell you guys. I'll give you guys a skinny. I wore 3 watches in today's short because it just because I'm a petulant child. That's why, and I like to troll people. No other reason than that. And it generates tremendous comments, and I get a kick out of it. Right? I think it's funny. I know it's my weakness, but I do enjoy it. Do I still use job boxes? I certainly do. Yeah, I have 2 job boxes. They're actually chilling over in the new shop. And what we do, one of the best implements for a tractor is to have a set of forks on it. Having a set of forks, it makes your work a lot easier. How many times have you went to Home Depot or Lowe's and you needed to get 30, 40 bags of concrete, and you got to load those things in there 1 bag at a time, 90-pound bags. That's not a small job. To be able to have a forklift, you can just have them fork it in the back of your truck, and then when you get home, to be able to move that around, to kind of change your system so that if you have heavy items, that you start getting pallets and move things around and organize that way. You got to look to the guys that do material handling. How do they do it? They've got it perfected, and you mimic that. So having forks are really nice. Forks are also really good for those job boxes. Why I like that is we're going to be, Brian started the blacksmithing down here today. I'm going to be down here starting some projects. We're going to be doing a bunch of crosscut saws. We got the crosscut saws out, and that content is going to be starting today. To be able to grab the job boxes that you have all your tools in. I've got one with carpentry tools in it, and the one with this kind of a mix of other things, chainsaw, sawmilling stuff. To grab it and to bring it down to where you're working, it really makes the job a lot easier. Not to mention, you don't have to put everything away at night. You can throw a chain around a tree, put a lock on it, lock everything up. It's going to be waterproof, secure. You just don't worry about it. It's breaking down, tearing down, and setting up. It takes a lot of time, and a job box really eliminates all of that, and it gives you a lot of security. And it gives you security when you're storing as well. It gives me a lot of peace of mind knowing that tools are double locked up. Not only are they behind locked doors inside of a secure shop, but even if they get inside the shop, you know, they've got to battle through all of that. And those things are hard to get into, short of having a cutting torch or a, you know, a grinder or a cutoff saw, hot saw. I do like job boxes. Dr. Prepper. Good to see the good doctor here. Dr. Prepper writes, 3 20-pound bags of ice in my tub brings water to 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Did 2 minutes this AM after only 4 hours of sleep. It made me feel like a full night's sleep. Back to my meat diet and daily walk. So I feel 100% better. There is no question that this has given me tremendous benefits. And I had a very similar experience as you this morning, Dr. Prepper. You know, the adversary doesn't like what's going on here. And he's like a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. And when he gets, if you wonder, sometimes people will say, even folks that will claim to be people of the book will say, well, what's this adversary you're talking about? You know, the adversary bothering you, the devil and Satan giving you trouble, making your life difficult, bringing difficulties into your life. I've never experienced anything like that. You know, what is all this about? You know, explain this to me. Now, I can't explain it all to you, but I can explain my personal situation. I know that when I'm far from God, when I'm not walking on the path, I never have any trouble from him, very little. But let me get back on the straight and narrow, and then here comes the problems. Broke down cars, financial struggles. One thing that he will really try to work up for me is sowing dissension among the family, causing fights or arguments between family members, getting, you know, just pressing buttons and that sort of thing. You got to be very aware of this, of what's going on, and realize it for what it is, and don't get carried away with it. When you're over the target, as they like to say, that's when you receive the ack-ack. That's when you receive the flak. No one's going to shoot at you if you're not over the target. When you start drawing near to God, expect to be tested. And be faithful, be faithful, be faithful. Understand that this is part of it. Count yourself fortunate that you have been counted worthy, that God allows you to be tempted. So don't feel like something strange has come upon you or God has forsaken you in any way. This is a test. This is how you build your spiritual muscle. We get in the cold water. Sometimes we can only get in for 10 or 15 seconds. Sometimes folks just start by getting their hands wet, maybe their face. But we exercise. Now, you know, when I first got in this river 7 days ago, I was in and out, you know, maybe a minute. Maybe I didn't even make a minute. I don't know. I didn't time it, but it wasn't very long. Now we're 3.5 minutes, and by Friday, the warband and I will be in there. We're going to sit in there for 10 minutes. You know, we've resolved to do this. You're building that spiritual muscle. Just like the spiritual muscle needs to be exercised, just like the body does. I lost my train of thought here. Oh, point being, yeah. So 42 degrees, that's super cold. My water this today was around there, 44, 45 degrees, so very similar. Talk about being tired, only having 4 hours to sleep. The reason why I'm talking about spiritual warfare, about you know, having to fight with the adversary and just giving you trouble, my sleep was attacked last night. You know, I went to bed without a clear mind. I had, you know, a lot going on. I was kind of stewing about some things. I just swam in my bed all night, maybe got 2 or 3 hours of sleep. Woke up this morning, I'm already starting off wrong. You know, I'm having to, like, I'm irritable, I'm tired, I'm looking to the future, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got all these things I've got to do, and I've got to do the live stream. How am I going to do it? I only slept 2 hours. I'm just so tired. I just can't think. Same experience. I knew I got to get in that cold water this morning, and that helped me. I got in that cold water, and it was like I'd slept the sleep of the just, 8 hours, no problem. You know, running around, hyper energy, very good focus, very good cognitive ability. But I started to wane a little bit right before the stream. And what did I do? Why is my hair all wet? I jumped in again. I got right back in there again, second time. I've been doing 3 a days. Got back in there again, and now I feel like a young man. Energy, no problem. I'm going to crash this evening, but I'm going to do it the third time. So this morning we had such a good experience. The guys are going to come over 8 o'clock, 8:30. We'll do it one last time, and we'll do three today for me and 2 for them. But yeah, 100% better. Yeah, there you go. So Dr. Prepper, he doesn't have access to the water, and you know, when you get off work, last thing you want to do it, and sometimes you can't do it. You know, if you got kids at home, you can't be doing that all the time. So figure out a solution where you can do this yourself. It takes a little bit of planning, but it's not going to cost you a lot of money. There's 2 options. One, you can go get yourself a used chest freezer or buy a brand new one. Chest freezers are not expensive, and they're very energy efficient. Get a chest freezer, bring it home, and plug that guy in and fill it full of water. They'll hold water like a little swimming pool. Don't fill it all the way up. You know, you're gonna, when you get in, it'll go over the sides, but dial it in the temperature, dial it in to as cold as you can handle. I would be right in there in the 40s, mid 40s or so, and get in that thing. If you don't have the space, unplug it. I don't know if you have to, but I would, if I was doing it, I would unplug it before I got in, obviously. If you can't do that, or you don't have the space or don't want to do that, go to a farm and ranch store and get yourself a galvanized water trough. Those are plenty big enough for most people to get into, and start making your own ice. You know, get a container or a few containers, clear out a shelf on your freezer. You know, most of you are going to have stuff in your freezer that's been in there for years. You know, you just get rid of it. It's freezer burnt anyway. Clear up a shelf. It's going to take a little bit of discipline, but make your own ice. Do it once every 24 hours, and you can take those blocks and put them in there and get that temperature down a little bit. I would encourage you to do it. You're not going to have a big outlay of money to do it. And if you can't do that, every one of us have access to a shower. Get in there, turn that thing full to the right. Mr. Jason, shout out to you. Thank you, Jason, for your generosity. Jason says, just bought my first house at 22. Any recommendations? God bless. I'll tell you the best thing that Mrs. W and I ever did. We've bought several homes. Is we pay off our homes early. We double our payments. Or I don't know if it's exactly a double, but what Mrs. W does is, fortunately, we have good credit. So, you know, we've enjoyed low interest loans. I think the whatever, it's not important. But we've always taken out a 30-year loan to keep the payments down. But what she did, bless her, she is more precious than rubies than me, because she's very good with these things, is that she figured out how much would we have to pay extra to reduce our mortgage from 30 years to 10 years, and just make that happen. Figure that out. That's the best advice I could give you. If you do a loan calculator and you look into this, the amount of money that you will save in interest rate over that 30 years is astonishing. It'll be amazing to you. Whatever sacrifice you have to make, whatever you have to do, double up, whatever. Try to get that thing paid off. If you can't do it in 10, do it in 15. 15 is a whole lot better than 30, and 10 is actually possible. How would you feel to be cash free and own your home in 10 years? You know, Mrs. W and I should have the remainder of ours probably gone inside of 2 years, and we're debt free, but that will take care of it. There won't be anything else. Pretty amazing to be able to do that. And how would that change your life to not have a rent or a mortgage payment? Could you use that extra $2,000 a month for other things? I think most people could. But that's the best advice that I could give you. Discipline equals freedom. As our friend Jocko says, discipline equals freedom. If you can have the discipline to curtail your lifestyle for a decade and make those extra payments, look at the freedom that you will enjoy beyond that. Cut 20 years off a mortgage. That'd be something. Mr. Tristix is back in the chat. Welcome. Good to see you here. Tristic writes, Cody, what do you think about KTM bikes? Thinking about KTM 690 Enduro R. Well, I love KTM bikes. I have 3 of them. I have a 450, I have a 350, and I have a 300 two-stroke, which is a Husqvarna, but it's essentially a KTM. They're the top of the food chain, the highest performance, most, they're, I think them and, the Japanese guys are going to argue, but I have Japanese bikes as well. As I have two Hondas, and the KTMs are just on another level. But that's why they're twice the price. A lot more maintenance, a lot more of a thoroughbred rather than just an old Indian pony, if we're going to use the horse analogy. But you enjoy that performance. Really good brakes, Brembo, really good components, a lot less upgrading than some of the other bikes. But if you're a guy that likes to tinker and to do maintenance on your own stuff, bikes like that, then no problem. When you get into the adventure bikes like the 690 and such, they don't require near as much upkeep as, let's say, the 450 SXF, the race bikes, or the TE 300s, the hard enduro race bikes, which are 8-hour oil changes, that sort of thing. These are going to go much longer service intervals, but I think they're great. I don't like heavy adventure bikes, to be honest with you. The adventure bikes are getting bigger and heavier and heavier and heavier. I think that it's way too much marketing. It sounds really cool. It sounds like, oh man, I got all this stuff and all these big old boxes. I'm gonna put all these lights on. And I'm gonna be like the Paris-Dakar. I'm gonna go on this adventure. It's gonna be amazing. Well, you get one of those big old behemoths off-road and it sucks. It sucks bad. And they're so heavy that you can't even pick them up. No, thank you. Give me lightweight, give me agile. I'll go through I'll take the discomfort of riding a smaller, lightweight bike compared to the road manners of a big one. But I do not look at those ADV bikes, those big 80 bikes, as off-road bikes at all. And that's going to be unpopular, but you can have those things. No, thank you. I don't want them. If I was going to get one and I had no other choice, the 690 is the only one that I would really make an exception of, because it's still reasonably light. It's not near as light as the 500, but it's going to be light enough where you'll be able to pick it up if it falls over. And it does have the off-road prowess and pedigree. It's going to be way more capable than when you get into the 1200s and any of the BMWs and the Teneres and all of that. No, thank you. I don't want anything to do with those deals. But the 690R Enduro is fine, but I would rather have a 500. I'd rather have a 500 than a 690. But that's because of what I'm doing. I'm not riding on asphalt. The only asphalt I'm really riding is from here to connect up to the trail, which turns to gravel in a couple miles. So I'm gravel, dirt, and single track. So that's my particular bias as well. Mr. Jason Barr, goodness, thank you for your generosity. $20 super chat. Jason writes, brother, I'm struggling since my wreck last year. I've gained about 25 pounds. I think I laid in a hospital bed for 4 months eating crap. I did the same thing, man, after both my surgeries. I have cleaned my diet up, but my foot is still too bad to do cardio. Kick me in the rear. I don't know that you need to do. I don't think that that's a big deal, brother. I don't think you need to do cardio to lose weight. I don't do cardio, and my heart rate is low. I am exceedingly lean. I have no fat. But when I came out of COVID, I told you I got up. I'm currently at about. I bounce around like 190, 196, somewhere in there. And that's I'm really lean. I suffer tremendously. I noticed with the warband of getting out of the water, I have almost I have no fat on me. And so I'm super cold when I get out of the water. When we were sitting this morning doing the Wim Hof breathing, I look to the left, I look to the right. Those guys have just a cotton hoodie on. We toweled off, put a hoodie on, and a pair of jeans. I'm in heavy jeans, a thermal cotton layer, a hoodie, and a big old alpaca vest, and a wool cap, and my hood over my head because I can't stay warm when I get out of that cold water. And when I can't stay warm, I can't focus and I can't relax and I can't meditate very well. And I can't really get the benefit of the Wim Hof. So I bundle up immediately. So as soon as I get out of the water, I towel off and I put all those layers on. And I've got a Pendleton blanket on me. So I mean, that's kind of the bad thing about, you know, being that lean. I wonder, this is just my think so. This is just my think so, Jason, that if you're not doing the cold water, you know, if you can do that, if you don't have any problems with that, I wonder if that wouldn't help you out a little bit, just by it speeding up your metabolism. Just be really careful on your diet and a little bit. You know, try fasting once a week. You know, that also helped me. When I came out of the surgeries, when I came out of COVID, you know, I do this I go up and down. You know, I'll get up 220 pounds, and you know, you can see me in my videos in the past. Got a big old fat face, you know, and I remember the first time that I felt driving the truck, and I felt like my fat man boobs jiggly. I'd never experienced that before, and when I felt that, I'm like, that is it. I cannot have that. So I go hardcore. I just stop eating. I'll just stop eating. I'll have my breakfast, and I just suffer through it. I'll just go 2-3 weeks, 1 meal a day, no sugars, no sodas, just water, and I'll just suck it up and just get it over with, and just drop it and get it down. Now, is that healthy? Is that the best way? It's not. I can't recommend that. I can't recommend anything. I'm not a dietitian. What do I know about it? All I know is that I just go scorched earth when it comes to that. I don't like being overweight. I don't like not being fit. I don't like fitting in my clothes. It's unacceptable, and I do whatever it takes to make it happen. Try that cold water, brother. Try that cold water. Yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Stouffer. We have a $3 super chat. Thank you, brother. And Justin Schweitzer. Good to see you. Good to see you as well. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting us and coming and hanging out. We have a member message from Zach Save Does Stuff. Commercial property update. I don't have an update. We did a little bit of light logging last year. You know, that the reason why I don't have an update, the reason why we're not doing anything with that was originally in the plans that we talked about was going to be, we were going to put up a structure there, a commercial structure, and when we had meetings and folks coming out, we were going to do it there. Well, we shifted gears. You know, maybe I didn't. I don't give updates probably often enough, but when we shifted gears, we decided, well, we don't want to be in this house that we have. It's too big. It's like 5,500 square foot or something like that. It's ridiculous. And so we're building ourselves a small house on the lot I bought just to the east. So when that's done, we'll move a family over there into a normal house, and then we'll have this great big house left over. Well, it's going to be perfect for a community center. So rather than build an expensive, you know, multi-million-dollar commercial building, because you're not building commercial for any less than $1.5 million or $2 million, at least out west. Why don't we just utilize what we already have, which is ideally suited for it? It's big, it's open, it's almost like a mini ski lodge. It has a huge kitchen that essentially is a commercial kitchen, lots of living space, everything that we need right here. We don't have to build anything, and then we can, for a lot less money, we can just build ourselves a normal house. So that's what we're doing. So the commercial property. I'm not doing anything. I just keep it mowed. I trimmed all the trees, put a road around it, and we're just sitting on it until we decide what it is that we want to do with it. It's just an investment at this point. Mr. Lenny 213, welcome. Mr. Lenny 213 is a new member, and he has a question. Any advice for mods I could carry out on my newly acquired Mossberg 590? As a game hunter, a home defense shotgun is new. As a game hunter, a home defense shotgun is new to me. If I was gonna, I thought for a minute you were trying to do two things with it, and that's always hard to do. But I was glad to hear that this is a standalone, a bespoke home defender. If it has a pistol grip on it, I would get rid of that and I would put a full stock on it. I've seen some of the Magpul accessories. I'm not a Mossberg guy. I'm more into Remingtons, so I can't speak with authority on this, but the 590 I think is a pretty common shotgun. There should be accessories for that. Magpul has always been a good company. They have good products, and they have a lot of aftermarket support for some of these more popular guns. I would, if it doesn't already have a good full-length stock on it, rear stock, I would put that on there. I'm not a fan of pistol grips. I've had several of them. They have their role. It would be good for a breaching. You know, I think Garantham did a really great video on YouTube about kind of a recce setup, and he had one of those on a bungee strapped up that was good for, you know, if you need to clear a room or you need to blow hinges on a door. You know, he lays it out a lot better than I could. I don't have much experience with that sort of thing. And I had never considered that before. I thought that a pistol grip shotgun was a bit of a gimmick. But he made some arguments whereas that might be handy. But if that was a home defender, I wouldn't want that at all. So I'd put a stock on it, number one. Magpul stuff. Number two, after that, the second thing I would do is I would put a high quality flashlight on it, for sure. Get a Streamlight or a Surefire. Those are the only two brands that me personally, as well as Modlite. Of course, Modlite is good. Modlite, but if I had a choice, it would be Surefire. A good Surefire flashlight on there. That's important. You know, most of the time you're going to have a bump in the night, or you're going to have to go out and investigate. It's going to be in the dark, and you don't want to have to manage a standalone flashlight and a shotgun. That's just not going to work. You want to have something on there that's easy to use up on the foregrip and ergonomic, so you can activate it with your thumb, whether you use a pressure switch. I never have really warmed up to those too much. I'm not a high-speed guy. I just want it simple and understandable, and I want it to work. So I'm happy with the tail cap. I actually prefer that. Give me a tail cap on the left side that I can activate with my thumb. On my personal defensive shotguns, I have Surefire foregrips. And I think that that's the very best way to go if you can swing the cost. The foregrip will replace, I'm assuming that the 590 is a pump, but again, I don't know Mossberg's, but assuming that, the foregrip, Surefire foregrips have an integrated light on the front. And those are really fabulous, and a really nice switch. You can do a temporary, a squeeze, or a full on, full off. And the light is right in the center, which is nice, opposed to being off to the side on a piece of rail like so many of the offset lights are that we do. After I put a light on it, I would do a choke extension, if it's not already there, to extend your magazine. Your magazine, if it's underneath, is going to be a little bit shorter than your barrel. I think barrels have to be 18 inches by law to be not considered to be an SBR or a short shotgun. And those magazines are sometimes a little bit short. So do your research and get a high quality one. There's a lot of crummy stuff out there. Make sure you get something that's reputable. But you can usually add a couple shots in the magazine, so you can take it up from 5 to 7. And that's a really good upgrade as well. And it looks good, looks really good. After that, I would put a front sling adapter so that I could throw a very simple sling. Don't need anything tactical, just a 1-inch webbing sling. Keep it simple, don't overthink it, so that you can sling the thing, that you can carry it cross-body or throw it on your shoulder, so you have some place to put it if you need to do something. You don't want to lay it on the ground and deal with it. You know, you got to have a sling. Every gun should have a sling on it. After that, if I wanted to go even further, I would look at putting maybe even upgrading the sights and put a ghost ring on. You know, I don't have anything like that. I probably wouldn't go there. That's probably enough. That would probably be about it. And I would do a side saddle of some sort. I've got the old school ones that bolt on. A side saddle is a way for you to carry an extra 5 rounds on the side of the receiver. I have the old ones that bolt on. There's better now. Most guys are going with ones that are tear off, that are Velcro. And that's a really good system, because you can have a small, like a micro fight, or you can even get a placard for your body armor or your chest rig that will receive those tear off magazines. And if you want, you can tear them off and you can slap them right on the side, and that's a good way to go. I don't have them. My fellow warband members have them. I've seen them. They're super cool. But those are the shotgun upgrades that I would do personally. Beyond that, it would be red dots or ghost rings or enhanced sights. maybe even an iridium or a glow-in-the-dark front bead of some sort that you could have put on. We have a super chat from the Maine Battle Toaster. Shout out to you, brother. The Maine Battle Toaster writes, I've been doing the Wim Hof breathing method for 2 weeks now, and it's simply amazing. It is. I'm so encouraged to hear you say that. Like, right when I read that, I got goosebumps. I believe in it so strongly because it has helped me so much. It's helped me to get through the day. It's helped me to be better on the live streams, to be more productive, more engaged, more focused, just a better all-around guy. It's really helped with my brain, with my cognitive efforts. I feel way more clear-minded. I can recall things that I know. I can speak more eloquently. I can, sometimes when I don't do it, I'm groping for words and terms. I do much less of that. I'm just much sharper and clearer. It's noticeable. I'm very excited to hear that. 3.5 minutes is my best so far. Thank you for getting me into it. Yeah, so there we have it right there. So the Maine Battle Toaster, what he's talking about is he's been able to do a breath hold for 3.2 minutes. Is that 3.5, 3.5 minutes. I challenge any of you who have not done this. Let me see you hold your breath for 3.5 minutes. Can you do that? There may be a few of you who can. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I held my breath for 7 minutes today, and you can do that as well. You can absolutely do that. That's what's possible. I looked up the world record for, I think it was free diving or something. This was some time back, but if memory serves, I think for female, I think the world record for holding your breath was somewhere in the 8-minute mark. So that's really getting up there. I don't remember what it was for men. 2 of us did it. My friend, we both did it side by side. We did it together. Amazing. Shout out to the Maine Battle Toaster. I'm really encouraged that you're doing that, and keep it up, man. Keep it up. I want to be here and encourage you guys to not quit, and to. It would be amazing where we could be in 3 months from now if we were to follow these things. I told the guys this morning. I got up, we decided to get in the river a little bit early, 7:30 I think it was. I came down about 7 or so and was getting things kind of in order. I like to get down a little bit early, and I suffer so bad from the cold, I like to kind of warm my body up a little bit. So I spend a little bit of time just with body weight, just doing like squats with just up and down, just really slow. To get my blood flowing. When you start firing those legs, it really warms you up. Get myself warmed up before I go in. I typically do that. So I was doing that a little bit. And I looked to the south, and I saw my friends coming down, the warband members coming down. And I was just I was so grateful to have friends that were doing this with me. And it dawned on me how important this was. I thought, there's nothing that is going to prevent me from getting down here, even if I don't want to do it, even if I didn't sleep very, very well last night. Everything in my mind was trying to convince me to come up with excuses, why I can't do it. And had it not been for those men, all of us counting on one another, I could have, I don't know, I could have easily came up with an excuse and put it off, and then it wouldn't have happened. You know what happens when you do that? Once you skip one day, that's real dangerous, because you start a dangerous precedent for giving yourself a way out when you're feeling weak. The reason why I'm doing the daily videos of the getting in the river is for accountability, is really the main reason. I did this, today was day 7. I didn't do videos, didn't do videos for a few days. That doesn't mean that I wasn't doing it. It was just that I was doing it with the war band, and I'm not gonna run the camera when they're here. They're not into this sort of thing. This is my thing, right? So don't think I wasn't doing it, but I was doing it with them, and there's no way I'm gonna exploit that and So when I uploaded day 7 today, that was the second time that I went in, and I'll do it on my own time, and that's what I'll share with you. So if you don't see me uploading that, it doesn't mean that I haven't done it. It just means that my friends are doing it with me. Mr. Overton, goodness, we have a $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Overton writes, want some fizz? The coming high-end radio. Oh, this is an update, so pay attention. Listen up. I'm getting this update and giving it to you in real time. Mr. Overton has an update on the next radio drop, and that's going to be the coming high-end radio option may or may not offer analog/digital. How about that? A digital option. This is completely out of my understanding and wheelhouse, but I know that digital is good and way more secure. So that's going to be fascinating. Overton and I had a conversation last week about what we want to do for the next drop, the next radio drop in the kit, what's going to be in it, and had some ideas in that. And I'm kind of the idea. I said, look, I want it to be good value, obviously. I want it to be something that's going to be usable for the guys. That it's going to be that when they get it, that they're going to feel like that they got a fair shake and that they have something that's usable and a quality item, right? That's important to me. But I also want something to be that's kind of unique and different. That you're not just going to be able to. It's not going to be easy to put together where you're not going to find it other places. I think that's important. But above all of that, I said I don't have a lot of input to give on this. I trust Evan. Evan, this is what he does. He's the expert here. Let us trust the expert. I'm not going to get in there and micromanage. I have a tendency to do that, and I've been trying to get out of that. And the middlemen have been helping me with that. Like, okay, we like work. We like your input as a creative, but tell us what color it can be, and let us do the heavy lifting and actually work out the details. Because you try to get in here, you're just going to mess everything up, and that's very true. And I had to accept that, and I do, and I will stay in my lane. So when it comes to this type sort of thing, I kind of leave it up to Evan and the guys to put this together of what is going to be best for us. And I'm just as happy and surprised as you guys. So that's kind of the way I'm working this. So how this unfolds, that's why I don't have information for you. But there'll be more as follows. So an analog, possibly an analog digital, texting, encrypted communication. I didn't know that was possible for us. Boy, how cool would that be? We know these. Look at this as having a spy in your pocket. I learned recently, there's GPS in there and accelerometers. There's all sorts of things in there. Who knows what's in those things? I learned recently that you could turn the thing off, unpower it, because you don't want everyone knowing where you're going or what you're doing for whatever reason. I don't know what your reasons are. I don't have to know. You have a right to have some privacy. Everyone does, I think. You can turn it off and do what you do and come back and turn it back on thinking that thing didn't track you, but it can use the telemetry or whatever from the accelerometer of the phone and recreate exactly where you went and where you were. So you have to just consider there's nothing you can do with this to make it, short of smashing it with a rock, and even then, who knows, you just have to leave it at home. And you can't communicate on they're just not secure. I don't have anything that I'm hiding from anyone. I don't have any secure communications. I'm just a professional homeowner with a family, just like you guys, right? But it's not right that we should have some privacy. We should be able to speak in our homes and speak with our family and loved ones without the fear of someone listening in on us. So I think that's very exciting. I don't know what the details are of it. You're hearing it when I'm hearing it. But if that's something that's interesting to you, be ready for when that drops, and we'll have more on that in the future. He goes on to say texting, encrypted communication, the ability to act as a standalone repeater, act accordingly, power settings. Good. That is something that I will put in the hands of the warband for sure, with my own money. Absolutely. Thank you. Man, that's a great update. Thank you, Overton. That's way beyond what I was expecting. Way beyond. It's interesting to see what Evan comes up with. Mr. Jason Mummy, shout out to you. Did I pronounce that right? Mumi? The house has a homemade septic system. Any recommendations for making sure it doesn't fail? Yeah. As someone who used to put those in, I put in hundreds of septic systems. I know them intimately, forwards and backwards. That was my business for a while. Make sure you have it pumped regularly. That's very important. So go locate it right now and find out if it's been pumped. You never know. You can't trust anyone. You're supposed to, when you buy a house, at least in this area, one thing that we always requested was, and it may be law, is to have the owner that's selling it has the septic tank pumped and ready for use. That should be done, every 3 or 4 or 5 years or so, depending on the use and such. Maybe 7, you can push it. It depends on how many people are using it and what your habits are. There's also something that I was told. Now, I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly everything about this, but I had a guy that we used to work with. His name was Orville Cade. Next to my grandfather, he was one of the coolest, best guys I ever knew. He was about the same age as my grandfather. And he had a septic tank pumping business called Byers. This was a Byers Septic. And usually those guys, when you work in excavating, of course, you work around this sort of thing all the time. You get to know these guys. Usually when a septic tank pumping guy comes up, he's somewhat low tier. He's dirty and stinky, and the job, it's just the job. It's not that he's low tier, it's just that it's a dirty, bad job, right? But not Orville. Orville would show up, he'd be wearing a really nice Oxford button down, long sleeve, blue and white pinstripe, trim, fit, looking good for his age. He was in his 70s, probably 70s. I think he did it up into his 80s. Nice pressed pants, jeans, a leather belt, polished shoes. He looked good, man. He was definitely pro-ho. He put on his gloves and he would go in there and he would do the work, and not a splatter, nothing. He was a surgeon when it came to that. He was really a neat, extraordinary guy. But one thing that he told me that he believed in was he always would try to encourage homeowners to use a septic enzyme. If memory serves, it's a little packet of powder that you can pour into the tank, and it just is some sort of a microbe that gets in there and starts working and breaks down, maybe like kind of a fermenting process would be, and breaks down the solids in there and extends it. He was of the belief that he didn't have to pump septic tanks near as often for homeowners, professional homeowners that would use this enzyme. So I can't tell you what it is, I don't remember, but it's a commonly used thing. Just go look it up. It's not super expensive, and just follow the instructions and do that. That's what I would do. But keep it pumped. Mr. Jared. We have another, is it Jaron? Jaron, we have another super chat. Thank you for your generosity. Oh, sorry, I just read that. We have a member message from Cincy Dane 08. Shout out to you. Cincy Dane writes, "Hi Cody, can we get a shout out for the Fizz Factory, the B side of the Big Fizz?" Well, absolutely. Well, here's what we can do. Yes, I will give a shout out. Shout out to the Fizz Factory. That is, now on the Signal app, Mr. Overton and the middlemen have put together some private chats where members get together, and I've heard that some friendships are being made over there, and that there's some super top quality guys. Well, the Big Fizz got maxed out, and it looks like there was a second group has started. The B side, the Big Fizz. The B side, the Big Fizz. The B side of the Big Fizz. Shout out to you guys. Welcome, man. That's encouraging. And Mr. Todd Kennington. We have a super chat from Todd. Welcome, Todd. Todd writes, "I wish you had merchandise, patches, shirts, hanks, etc. We're working on that. We're working on that right now. Mrs. W is working on that in the back end, and we are working on that. But I'll tell you, the last bit of artwork that Overton sent over to me was pretty good. I'm excited to see what we can do with that, and it's so good that I think that it might even be something we could put on a shirt or something. We'll leave it up to those guys. I'm staying in my lane when it comes to that. We have better people than me working on that right now. Mr. Ben LePage, good to see you here, Ben. Welcome, welcome. Ben's been with us for 4 years, by the way. Good day, Cody. Ben's also from Australia. Good day, Cody. Do you have a P.O. box that we can send stuff to? I'm sorry I'm late to today's stream. Yeah, send me an email, cody@wranglerstar.com, and I'll give that P.O. box to you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your support. Theo Anoy, new member. Welcome, brother. Welcome. Good to have you here. And Mr. Overton, we have another super chat. Overton held my breath for 25 minutes once. ECMO heart-lung machine. Some people may consider that cheating. Well, you know what I say is if you're not cheating, you're not trying, Overton. So you have the official record. So there is. The bar has been set. 25 minutes. Mr. Overton has held his breath. We have something to aspire to. I'll get right on that one. Mr. Theo, we have a super chat for $4.99. Thank you, brother. Thank you for your generosity and for your faithfulness. Evan, good to see Evan Roach in the chat. The day is not complete without Evan paying a visit here. Evan writes, in this world, there are a few types of men, average men, great men, and then there's Overton Windex in a class of his own. Yes, he is. He is. He is. He has a special skill set that I am very fortunate that he's on our side. That's all I have to say. Overton is an old soul. It's funny. I was talking to he's a young man, a very young man actually, half my age or less, right? And I told him the other day when we were talking. I said, sometimes I forget that you were still young. I'm like, I think I was making boomer or Gen X references. Oh yeah, remember how we used to do thus and so, we had to have the cassette tape and the black and white TV. I had black and white TV growing up. You remember all that? And then it dawned on me, I'm like, he doesn't know what I'm talking. Well, he may know what I'm talking about, but no, he did not have that experience. So, but sometimes people they're just kind of an old soul. They have a gravity, and when you go through extreme difficulties like Overton has and overcome tremendous things, I think it puts it sobers you up, and it forces you to put on 20, 30 years very quickly, and I think that's probably what's going on there. Thank you, Evan. Always good to see you here. Mr. Theo. Theo is back. We have a super chat. Theo says, watching for 2 years, you are a huge reason I am now a Christian. I'm 23 and I just started a handyman business. I'm trying to quit smoking. Any advice? I had to quit smoking. I get that. I started smoking cigarettes. Camel Filters was my brand. Camel Filter Hard Pack. I probably started smoking in earnest when I was, like buying a pack a day, I guess I would consider. When you buy a pack a day for your own and you're not just bumming cigarettes at bars, that's when you really start smoking. I was probably 19. You guess quite a bit older than my friends. A lot of my friends were smoking. Most of the men in the church I grew up, or the Christian cult I grew up, smoked, which was always weird. I resisted for a long time, but it was a slippery slope, man. You start when all your friends around you are smoking. You start off like, hey, let me have one of those, and you cough and wheeze on a little bit, and then after once you get past the head rush, then it hooks you, and then pretty soon you start buying packs and doing it. So I smoked, and then in construction. I smoked a pack a day probably all the time from the time I was 19 up until early 30s or so. And then I was a closet smoker, you know, 'cause then I kind of got into the fire department and a little bit healthier crowd. And, you know, that being a cigarette smoker in that environment just didn't play very well. So it was more, I kind of came more of an underground smoker. So smoking when I drank. And I played around that off and on. Man, I tried to quit. Dude, I tried to quit so many times. My downfall every time was when I'd go to the bar or I would drink. I always was of the belief that every beer, when you have a pint of beer, should have stuck to it on the side of it a cigarette. You know how they put the red WD-40, the little red, you know, the straw? It should be taped on there just like that, because nothing goes better with a cold beer after work than a cigarette. Goodness, I still miss it to this day. When I smell it, I'm not one of those guys that became a like super anti-cigarettes after they quit. Oh, you know, put that out. You know, I've never liked that. Whenever I smell it, I'm like, oh, that smells good. Even thinking about it now, I would love to have a cigarette right now. And it's been a long, long time. Right, I quit a long time ago, so I don't judge. I get it. I tried so many times. I'd knuckle it out, and the moment I'd go be a Friday night, have a beer, be drinking with friends. It was over, man. It was over. Start bumming, and then buy a pack. I used to buy a pack when I'd go to the bar, and then I'd throw it away on the way home, hoping I wouldn't. It was terrible, terrible. One of the most difficult things to do. When I met Mrs. W, I had just got back from Colorado, and I was definitely a closeted smoker, so a social smoker, smoking when I would go to the bars or drinking. Mrs. W is an athlete. It is not about smoking. Probably never ever had a cigarette. You know, she's a straight-laced type of person, and you know, so I was thinking, you know, there's no way I'm going to lose her if she finds out that I'm smoking, right? But she would see me occasionally from time to time. I never bought packs, but it would be, oh, you're at a picnic, you know, maybe one a week type of thing. But definitely, you know, not very much, but struggling. But just wanting her more than wanting cigarettes, I guess, would be the position that I was in. But you know how that goes. What would have happened, it would have been, well, once I cuffed the woman, you know, then, well, now I got her, then I can't lose, right? Then I probably would have got back into it and, you know, been kind of a half-assed closet smoker and probably be still doing it to this day. When I met Mrs. W, when we were dating, God called me back to himself and really changed my life. And I met and got to know what God was really like, and really started that journey. And I prayed about that alcohol. I didn't want to drink and I didn't want to smoke anymore. And God, for lack of a better term, really miraculously delivered me from that, from the bar scene. And I used to love going to the bar. Just, you know, loved it, enjoyed it, was a good drinker. Very, 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 very good, very, very experienced. But when I started coming to God and I started praying, and I'm going to preface this, I'm not going to tell you that this is going to happen to you. You know, who can know why God does what he does? All I can do is just tell you my story and my experience. He delivered me from that. I remember I prayed about it. I didn't want to be a smoker like my dad was. My dad was still a smoker, had smoked his entire life. I just didn't want that. I didn't want to do it in my home. I didn't want the filthy habit. Didn't want it. I didn't want to weaken myself. I didn't want to become sick because I was a smoker and drinker. So I prayed about this and I asked for deliverance, and God did deliver from me in a miraculous way. I went from having, and I tried so many times, and I always failed. He took away the urge from me. I remember distinctly a bar I used to drink at, and in the past times when, you'd try to stop drinking, I'd walk by it. You know how you can smell, especially when the doors are open in the summertime, just the bar smell, whatever that may be, the stale beer and all of that. It used to be, that smells good to me. Right after work, go in with the buddies, drink, have a half dozen beers or so. I remember after God delivered me from that, walking by that bar and that smell wafting out, and it being an offense to me for the first time. It was repugnant to me. And that's really how I knew I'd been delivered from that. Went for many years, didn't touch a cigarette, didn't anything. But the moment you start slipping and backsliding and start taking God for granted and compromising on your prayer time, compromising on your reading of Scripture, I found that urge, that desire started to come back. I never became a smoker again after that, but I do know that it was a little bit more of a struggle, and that from time to time I'd fall back at it. From the time I quit smoking, 20 years ago, to now, I have probably smoked. I don't want to lie about this by giving the wrong number. This is the best guess if I had to guess. I have probably smoked on my own probably a couple dozen packs over 20 years. Now, why? Why would I buy them? I bought smokes when I went on wildland fire. I looked at that, wrong or right, as a treat that I would enjoy. And not all, but some. The first few I didn't, but one time I was working on an engine, and we had a rough go, long day, hard work, and at the end of the day we'd accomplished some good things and saved some stuff. And I remember sitting down with all the guys, my guys and my engine, as well as some hand crew guys that were just good dudes. And the camaraderie that comes around for that, and you know how it is. Guys that have been in the service understand that. It's very similar in the fire service. Some guys broke out a pack of cigarettes and started passing them around. And I took one, and it was wonderful. And I would do it again 1,000 times. The camaraderie, sharing it with the guys, and I don't have any problem with that. I think that's entirely appropriate. There were folks that were smoking and enjoying a cigarette in that scenario, filthy, dirty, dusty on the side of a mountain after a hard day's work, and that was a great experience, and I would do it 1,000 times over again. As I said, people that didn't smoke even partook, and it was just something that happened. It was a wonderful thing. I think that's entirely appropriate, and I'd do it right now. Find myself in a situation where we would defended a house, wildland fire, or whatever. That's just an example I'm giving. And someone broke that out. I don't care who was watching. I would enjoy a cigarette, and in the future I will from time to time. Maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, maybe once every other year, whatever. I'm not going to say when, but I'll enjoy one. If I want to have a cigarette, I'll have a cigarette. I bought cigarettes wildland firefighting after that. I enjoyed it so much because I kind of figured, and a lot of guys figured, we're breathing so much smoke and it's so unhealthy, this environment, for the 2 weeks or 21 days we're going to be here. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days, that I'm going to enjoy a cigarette in the evening. Now, I didn't smoke like I used to. Wouldn't be smoking 20 a day, but maybe 3 or 4 a day. Whenever you got the urge, or after lunch, something to that effect, and just enjoy it, enjoy the nicotine, because it is a great pleasure. Don't get me wrong. Everyone who smokes knows that. But at the end of the day, or the end of the fire, I didn't bring him home, and that's when I cut it off. That was done. I made a distinct separation between that time and then my home life. How I stay quit, I guess, how I don't smoke now, is that I choose it. That's the difference. I cannot abide being told what to do. If I'm told what to do, I do the opposite. I'm just, as I say, a stubborn, petulant child. You want to motivate me to do something? Tell me I can't do it, and we'll see if I can't do it. So I tell myself, I made the choice. And I know right now, if I choose to have a cigarette, if that's something that I want comes upon me, I will go down to the store and I will buy a pack of Camel filters and I will enjoy that cigarette, and I will take the rest of the pack and I'll dip it in water so I'm not tempted and throw it in the trash. I haven't done that. I don't feel the need to do that, but if I want to do that, I'll do that. And that makes a difference for me. I choose not to smoke. It's not that I can't have a cigarette. You know, like I talked about the importance of keeping your peace and not murmuring and complaining. What do you do when you typically try to quit cigarettes? Oh, wish I could have a smoke. I can't smoke, I quit, I can't do it. Someone telling you you can't do something, you're telling yourself you can't do it. You can't look at it that way. No, I can do it. I can do it anytime I want to. I choose not to do it. That's the difference. So I don't know if that's helpful to you, but that's how I handle it, and that's what makes it possible for me. You may meet me someday in a particular environment, and you may be a smoker, and you light one up. There's a good chance I'll have one with you. I don't have any problem with that, not whatsoever. But I won't have one when I get home because I choose not to smoke. Goodness, we have a $50 super chat from our friend Mr. Gamer Dave. Thank you, brother. Thank you for your faithfulness, and thank you for your generosity. All right, I'm going to settle in here with my public school education and try to do something as simple as reading without stammering. Gamer Dave writes as follows. Hey Cody, a favorite film, soundtrack, and some dialect from it had a very strong effect on me today, to the point I cried on my way to work when it came into my head, and a parable of my own life struggle was mingled in the fighting ways I wish to cut away from my life for good for a while. You see, there is no punctuation here, so I am going to make an excuse here. A favorite film, soundtrack, and some dialect from it had a very strong effect on me today, to the point I cried on my way home to work when it came into my head, and a parable of my own life struggle was mingled in it, fighting ways I wish to cut away from my life for a good while, struggling to get up on my hamburger hill of this life in all weather, through mud and blood, enemy fire, to reach the top and triumph over all evil, to come to peace, where the few who survived join you. Boy, I lost my place when I can't find it here. I had to scroll down. In the clouds on the top of the hill, with help from someone who was being guided you the whole time and even gave his life for yours, was in three super chats, Cody. I have a difficult time with reading comprehension during live streams for some reason. Usually when I'm reading, I read a little bit slow and clear on what it is you're trying to say here, Dave. Let me look at it one more time here. Where the few survive join you in the clouds at the top of the hill, with help from someone who has been guided you the whole time and even gave his life for yours, was in 3 super chats. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, Dave. I really want to understand, but I'm not real clear on what you're saying and how that correlates to the super chats. If you could clarify succinctly to Overton will throw that up there as a members chat. I would very much like to speak to what it is that you're trying to get across, but I don't understand. But I'll certainly make time if you can kind of condense your thoughts into something, make it simple for me. Make it simple for me, and we can get to the bottom of what it is that you're trying to get across. Because I think you're trying to say something that's important, and I would very much like to know what that is. But thank you, Dave, and that's a tremendously generous super chat. I sure do appreciate that. Mr. Ron Swanson. Welcome, Ron. Ron writes, mortgage/truck are financed below 3%. Shout out to you, brother. I heard the current mortgage rate for automobiles is 7% or better. That's if you have stellar credit. I make 3% with that money, plus inflation is eating my debt away for me. Yeah, there you go. If you can, if you're smart and you can had borrowed money at that rate, then you can leverage that and really do well. A lot of folks are not in that boat. A bellwether for really what the true state of our economy is in is the used car market. I've said in the past, I follow YouTubers that have used car lots that buy on the auction, like I used to do for my wrecking company or my wrecking yard. And I watch and see what's taking place at the dealer auctions. Right now, it's telling us that the economy is very, very bad. It starts on the margins. The people that are distressed the most, they are the canary mine. You know why the canary of the coal mine? You know what that means? Have you heard that term before? If you have, back in the day, miners would go underground, and many of them suffocated because of I don't know all the gases, but the lack of air down there, the lack of circulation. And it comes upon you slowly. You know, buildup of carbon monoxide kills people when they run generators in their house. And if they're sleeping, they just simply go to sleep. You don't know that you're suffocating. And there was tragedies that took place. What they found out is that a canary is very susceptible to low oxygen, and they will, they'll pass out way before a man does. So they would actually go down with the canary in a cage, and the men would watch it. And the moment that the canary would fall down off its perch and be in the bottom of the cage, they knew that they had to get out. They had a limited time, that oxygen levels were failing or falling. So that term, the canary in the coal mine, that's where that comes from. The canary in the coal mine for the economy are the people that are on the margins, the people that are really paycheck to paycheck. You know, there are three things that we have to pay for, that we need in this country. We need food, and we need housing, and we need transportation. And when you're so stressed that you have to choose one of those to let go, you know, what is it? It's going to be the automobile. Sometimes it's the rent. Sometimes people choose to live in their cars rather than pay rent for a house because transportation is everything to them. And when you start seeing people that are on the margins and repossessions going up, repossessions last month were up 50% in the first 2 weeks of the month. That means there'll be more, so even more. It could be up 100% by the next 30 days. So in 1 month, it's trending that car repossession is going to be up 100% in 30 days. That is really scary stuff right there. And when you look at the dealer auctions and you're looking at the inventory, there's inventory sitting on lots of new cars it's going plus 200 days. Car dealers do not like to have inventory sitting around more than 90 days. 90 days is too long for them. They don't own those cars. They have to pay interest on those cars, and it eats up the profit. You start having cars sitting on lots 60, 90 days, you're getting to a point rapidly where you're about upside down in those things. And what else I see going on in the dealer auctions is new cars, brand new cars from the factory. Dealers are running them to the auctions because they can't move them. Who's going to buy a car at 7, 8% interest? And what if your credit's dinged up a little bit? Now you're at 8, 10, 9. Now you're getting up into credit card interest rates. People are just not going to do it. So if you want to see the state of the economy, follow the dealer auctions. You can see repossessions and what's going on. Well, shout out to you, brother. Gamer Dave has some explanation. Oh, I said says sent that in 3 super chats. I combined them. Okay, well I was confused by that. I can't deal with that long text. It's just too confusing to me. We'll have to break those up a little bit. We have a member message from Ty Guy. Shout out to you, Ty Guy. Ty Guy, shout out to the Big Fizz keeping me accountable this morning. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I'll tell you, that's the thing. That accountability is really important. What I was wanting to kind of touch on a little bit with the warband members coming down and how we offer accountability to one another. There was no way I could not go down at 7:30 and get in that cold water because the other guys were counting on me. We were depending upon one another, and we draw strength from one another. So in a small way, or very similar to that, I think that's why the live streams are important. And that's why I share with you guys what's happening how I'm receiving benefits from this. If I discover something that has helped me to feel better, to be healthier and happier, to have more energy, to be more productive at work, to have more patience with my family, yeah, I'm going to share that, and I'm going to share it regularly as it happens in real time, so that you're encouraged as well. You know, a lot of you are isolated out there. You maybe moved to a part of the country where you don't know anyone and having trouble putting friends, making friends. And unfortunately, the culture, this Western culture that we were raised in, it really beats into you from a kid how the best thing that you could hope to be is a rugged individual like John Wayne or a Clint Eastwood or the Sigma man that is able to handle every single problem, and he don't need anyone else, and I'll take care of my own things. That sounds really cool, and I bought into that for a long time, and I took a lot of pride in being an independent man, and I would compare myself with other men that were not as capable, and I always thought myself to be a better man than them because I had all these skills and never had to call anyone to pull me out of a snowbank. I've done that in the past, and I'm ashamed of that, to be honest with you. I've come to understand more recently that that's no way to live. And that's really, I was coming to that conclusion when we moved from the old place to here, that I understood that I need to have friends, and there's other good men out there that I want to have in my life. I want to have a community. I thanked the war band members as we came out of the water today. It was a great accomplishment. Smiles on everyone's faces. We did it together. We supported one another. We encouraged one another. If I was by myself, I would have maybe got out of the water early, but nobody got out early. We drew strength and we encouraged one another. And it was amazing. It was a great experience, and I look forward to it in the future. I wish and I hope you can find something like that. If you can't, then this is what we can do here. I will give you the war band, or the middlemen, the Big Fizz group. All of that is about accountability for those of you who don't have access to other men. And it's not perfect, but it's not nothing. So I'll share with you and be an open book about what I'm experiencing. If I find out that, I did 6 months cold water immersion and my hand fell off, we're not going to do that anymore. I will do that. I'm not so prideful that I'm unwilling to admit when I'm wrong about something and do a 180. I'm a progressive person. When you think of progressives, you think of crazy leftist liberals. You don't think of anything good. But really, Proho is a progressive because progressive means that if you're going down the wrong path and you realize that you're going down the wrong path, the most progressive thing to do is to do what? If you have a destination and halfway through you look at your map and you're like, oh goodness, we're going entirely the wrong way. Does the progressive man just double down and just keep on going? Or does the progressive man realize, well, I've made a mistake, I've been going down the wrong path, I need to do a 180? That's what he does. He makes a correction when he realizes that he's been going the wrong way or finds something better. And that's what we need to be. We need to be not so prideful that we can't receive correction or instruction. And that's harder for us that are older and more set in our ways. And it's especially hard for me because whatever I do or whatever I choose to say, there's going to be thousands of you that tell me, oh, that's great, that's awesome. You're going to affirm the decision that I made. And even though I may know in my mind, or God may be speaking to me through His Spirit, you're going down the wrong path. I could say, well, no, don't you see right here? There's a whole army of people. Look at all the Proho that are telling me that this is good, that they like this, that this is something that we should do. And you can sear your conscience. You can put away the urgings of the Holy Spirit and just double down and just keep on going. We need to be teachable. We need to be resolute and firm when we make a decision, but we also need to be open to the fact that maybe we were wrong about something. Maybe we went down the wrong path, and to be able to make that correction. And it's a hard thing to do sometimes. It's a blow to the pride, and it's a blow to the ego to admit that you're wrong. And that's an important thing. I'll tell you, me personally, and put sevens in the chat if you agree with me for this next statement, and put zeros if you don't agree with me. If there was someone, a man that you greatly admires or respected, a leader, whatever situation that may be, and it come to find out that he had done something wrong, made a massive mistake, he has two ways he can handle this. Let's say it's public, everyone knows it. He was greatly loved, admired, and respected. Number one, he falls on his sword, he owns it, admits it, and makes the correction, even though it's completely different of what maybe he had done or taught for a decade, and makes the correction, picks himself back up, and continues to lead, but now in a different direction. Would you lose respect for that man? Or would you respect him, even though he was wrong and maybe even had fallen down and failed? Would you have more respect for that man versus one that just tried to hide it or cover up or make excuses or justify and just keep doubling down and marching down that road? You know, we know the answer. The answer is 7. We may not be happy that we went down the wrong place, but the fact that he made the change and he was willing to own it, I don't think he would lose any ground, to be honest with me. Actually, just the opposite. I would have higher esteem for that man than I did for even before. I would have higher esteem. But you let the man try to cover it up, make excuses, justify, the respect would be lost and never be able to be regained. And that's not the easy thing to do. That's called taking the high road right there. And the more exposure you have, the more influence you have, the more people that you, or the bigger and louder your voice is, the harder and harder that is to do. Because you can start getting to the point where I'll tell you, beloved, this is a very dangerous occupation to get into, because there are way too many yes men. When you have someone, when every time you open up the computer, whenever you jump in the comments, when you have just yes men telling you, you go, man, you go, you slay king, this is great, you're amazing, I wish I was you, I wish you were my dad, how do you, I would never be able to, etc., etc. That is a snare to me, and a very dangerous thing. You've got to have someone keeping you grounded, so having men around you, guys who really know you and how you are and what you're like when you're tired and how you react when you're put under pressure. They don't have any false illusions. They know the real deal. They know exactly what it is. Whereas when you have the ability to video edit, when you have the ability to pick and choose and to curate content that you put up, you can make yourself look any way that you want. I can make myself appeal. If I mess something up, I don't have to share it. I don't have to put it in there. I can redo something 50 times until I get it right and throw it up there as if, oh yeah, I just walked up to there and it was just easy for me. I don't do that. I try very hard to keep authentic. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's just, I think that's important. How discouraging is it for someone to show you how to do something, woodworking, whatever, and you watch the YouTube video and yeah, I think I could do that. That looks pretty simple. And then you go try to do it and you fail. How does that make you feel? It makes you feel like you're less than that guy. You're not as good as him. Well, why was he able to do it and me not able to do it? You don't know he had a staff behind him. You don't know that he had 19 shots to get that right and he only shared what was good. That's why the Bible is true. That's how we know the Bible is true, beloved, because it shows the mistakes that men made. It's different than almost all other recorded history. When a country or a band records his own history, he edits all that out. No civilization rarely writes about their defeats, but only their victories. And if you were to wipe the sand away and read the Sanskrit, and you would see, oh, the Egyptians, look at this, they never lost a battle. Great victories, great innovation, great kings. But they didn't record, they didn't write down all the times that they failed or they were overcome or defeated by an enemy. That's the problem with autobiographies. You shouldn't be writing your own. Why we know the Bible is true, or one of the main reasons is that we see the sins of King David for all eternity. And yet he was a man after God's own heart. And people struggle with that. They look at this sin, look at this horrible God. Look how terrible he is. He says King David was a man after his own heart. King David killed with his own hand thousands of men. King David betrayed his best friend, Uriah the Hittite. Uriah had a beautiful wife. Uriah was off fighting in war. David decided to stay home and not to go out and march with the army that year. The good book tells us that David was up on the rooftop of his palace or castle, whatever he lived, and he looked over on an adjacent rooftop, right next door neighbor, and he saw a beautiful woman bathing. Well, he inquired about this woman. Who is this woman? Now, David was the king. He had the pick of the litter. He was ruddy and handsome, very charismatic. I always think of David as kind of a Brad Pitt type of character in appearance, and just some people just have an incredible charisma. I've never met Brad Pitt, but I think most men can realize that he's the type of guy that you would really like, that would be fun to have around, that would just have something that drew you to him. I think King David probably had that type of charisma. He inquired about this woman, and his servant said, that is Uriah the Hittite. That is his wife, one of your most trusted men, a man that put his life on the line multiple times to establish David's throne, was absolutely devoted to him, an absolute hero, man of valor, and completely trustable. I think the fact that Uriah lived, the proximity of his house was so close to David's, I think that fact tells us of how close of friends that they were. You wouldn't live next to the king if you hadn't been gifted that property. So what does he do? He finds out, oh, that's the wife of your best friend, one of your most trusted soldiers, one of your most trusted generals, whatever. He couldn't help himself. He said, bring her to me. He laid with her, and he impregnated her. She came back sometime later, no one knows how many times, while Uriah is off fighting for the king. She comes back with a very unwelcome message, David, I'm pregnant. He's like, ugh. How am I going to deal with this? Now, this is a man after God's own heart. This is a man that's held up as an example to us. So what does David do? He says, send a letter, have Uriah come back, tell him that I want him to report to me how the battle goes. So messenger sends, Uriah comes back, yes, king, right to the king's castle. Tell me how the battle goes. Come and enjoy and have some food and drink. David got him drunk, told him how the battle went. They feasted. Now David was scheming. David was thinking, if I can get him here, get him drunk, well, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to go home to his beautiful wife. He's going to have sex with her, and this is going to get me off the hook. She's pregnant, maybe 30 days along. That could probably work. Maybe the baby maybe came out early, but we don't have 21andMe here, so who's to say? Things happen. It's not impossible, and that I'll be completely off the hook. You know what type of a guy Uriah was? When they were done feasting and drinking, and David said, go home, enjoy your wife, he said, absolutely not. I will in no way go and sleep in the comfort of my home, in the comfort of my bed, enjoy my wife, while my men are sleeping in tents out in the field. But I will sleep right here on the ground. I will not go back home. This is not working out very good for David. What type of a guy is that, right? It tells you a lot about the character of David. It tells you about the type of man that David betrayed. Next day, David did something even worse. He says, fine, return back to the front, and I want you to take this letter to my general, Abner, I believe it was. Do you know what was written in that letter? It was sealed. Uriah couldn't read it. What was in that letter was instructions to the general that said this: I want you to put Uriah in the very front, in the vanguard, at the hottest part of the battle, at the most dangerous part as when you're sieging. He wanted Uriah to be put in the most dangerous part so there was a good chance that Uriah wouldn't survive. A place you would never put a man, an important man like that. Cannon fodder. And of course, that's what happened. Abner, I believe it was, sent the letter back. He was nervous. He was scared. You know, Abner didn't know what was going on. He was reluctant to send the letter back to David because he knew how much David loved this man. He was afraid that the king might be angry and punish him for letting him get killed. But he did it anyway. And he was really shocked by David's response back. David received the letter and replied something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. You know, such is life. These things happen. Don't worry. Don't worry your pretty little head about it, Abner. And then he brought Uriah's wife, into his home and made her a wife. Well, I'm not going to go on the rest of the story, what happened, but the point being is that this is a man after God's own heart. What does that say about God? So you're telling me that he's your favorite, and me, I've never done anything like that. I've never murdered my best friend. I've never committed adultery with my best friend's wife. And yet he's the guy that you're lifting up as an example? What gives with that? What type of a God is that? What type of a monster is that? Many people have read and heard this story and have turned away from God because of their lack of understanding. The reason why God said David was a man after his own heart was how David reacted when confronted with this. I'll tell the story. I think it's worth telling. After this, God was very angry with David. And he sent the prophet, sent a man of God to David, and he told him a story. He shows up at the palace. Sir, King David, there was a man who had one little sheep. He was poor, but he loved that sheep tremendously. He loved it so much that he treated it like a child, like a daughter to him. He even carried it around in his bosom and made sure that it slept in the house with the family. He adored it. And those of us who have animals and pets, you know, we can understand that. We can understand how a pet can be a family member and how important that would be. And you would fight to the death to protect our animals. Many of us would. He said one evening a rich man came and knocked on his door and said, let me have your sheep. I want to have some friends over and I want to have a feast. This man was rich. He had thousands of sheep, hundreds, who knows, many. He took this man's one sheep, the only thing that he had, and he sacrificed it. I'm paraphrasing, I'm giving you the gist of it. Again, I haven't read the story for a while. Now, this story was told to King David as if it was something that was taking place in the town there. And David was absolutely incensed. He says, you tell me who this man is that did this, and he will surely die. And the prophet said to David, you are the man. This was a parable, this was an analogy showing David what he had done. Uriah had only one. He adored this woman. She was everything to him. And he took her, and he committed adultery with her, and he killed his best friend over her. Now David, the way he responded was what saved his life. Did he make excuses? Did he try to reason out of it? Did he take the prophet that brought the bad news and put him in prison and have his head lopped off to try to hide his sin? No, he said, I am the man. I have sinned. It is me. He owned it. He owned it. That's the difference. Why was David a man after God's own heart? It's because when he made it, the story is not condoning what David did. The story and the why it's in the 66 is because it's just what happened. And it is a demonstration of what true repentance looks like and what God is seeking. The reason why David was a man after God's own heart is because he owned his mistake. It wasn't that he was perfect. It wasn't that he was more pious than everyone else and he went to church and he kept the Sabbath and he never ate anything unclean. It's that when faced with a decision, when he made a mistake, he did not try to make excuses, he owned it. And that's what God is asking from us. That's why the example. So if you want to be a man after God's own heart, you don't have to be perfect, beloved. You simply just need to come correct when you understand that you've been going down the wrong path. We have a super chat from Xavier Goslin, who writes, my father is able to send script messages in Morse code. He got a repeater hidden somewhere on the mountain. Yeah, this is something I don't know about it, but I've heard about this. This is in reference to the second drop of the Proho radio kits. If it's possible, if we're able to do encrypted radio messages, text, emails. I know that people are doing this. I've seen a lot of buzz about this on the internet that folks are doing this. I don't know anything more about it than that. When I find out, I'll share it with you. Yeah, good for him. He's the head of the rest of us. Obviously, Proho. Mr. Just Seth, we have a super chat, writes, have you heard of zeolite? I got pressurized into getting the shot and I'm trying to do all I can to get rid of that protein. Any other recommendations? Oh, beloved, I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. I don't have a scientific mind. I don't even know what that is. Every man's got to make his decision. I don't blame anyone that took shots, per se. Well, I don't know that I don't blame them. What is the point at this? What's the point? Why are we going to? I can't condemn someone. It's fruitless to condemn someone for making a decision that they did, and then coming to the realization that it was a mistake. Why are we going to pile on? I think being a little bit more sympathetic would go a long ways. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is. I did not take childhood vaccinations. It wasn't that I was against it at the time, and I'm not necessarily against it now, but it depends on what it is. It seems to me having a newborn child loaded up with 27 different cocktails of vaccinations might be somewhat extreme. But if a young kid steps on a rusty nail, I'm not opposed to them going and getting a tetanus shot. I think it's completely clear that the polio vaccination in the past has had benefits. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I don't know. But all I know is that I was raised in a Christian cult environment that was completely, all of us were forbidden to have any contact whatsoever with Western medicine. Meaning there were no childhood immunizations, there was nothing given in school. All of it we had religious exemptions from, and I've carried that through my entire life. And in that environment that I grew up with, which was thousands of people, I never once saw any of these childhood afflictions that they tell us that we're all going to get if we don't get vaccinated. I didn't see it. This is anecdotal. This is my personal experience. I've never experienced it myself. The Amish are of the same mind, and they do not suffer from what I'm told, from all of the problems, the allergies, the nut allergies, the Down syndrome, ADHD, etc. They don't have any of that stuff. Now, why? You can only speculate, but they don't take vaccinations either. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Let's start off with that. Unless we're talking about the poke. That's something I can't get behind, and I would not do. I don't know I wish I could speak to it. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. I'm not in a position to offer you anything when it comes to that. I know nothing about it, but I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. You know, I was willing to, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm committed with this. I'll share kind of an interesting discussion I had. When I went in for my last surgery, of course, you know, right before it all goes, you have to sign all this paperwork. And, you know, I was under for a significant amount of time. You know, the discussion of blood transfusions comes up. And so I asked the surgeon, I said, can you guarantee that I'm not going to get tainted or contaminated blood, meaning vaccinated blood? He said, he goes, I'm sure that they filter it. I looked at him, I said, you're sure? How are you sure? Do you know? And he was very sheepish. Oh, well, I assumed. And I said, oh. So I had to go really basically take the out that the Jehovah's Witness friends take, right? No blood transfusions. So, you know, and there was a very low probability that this would ever be a deal, but whenever you go into a surgery, you know, anything's possible. An artery or vein could be cut. You might be bleeding out. They might need to give you blood. And I declined it. I would rather, me personally, and I put my money where my mouth was, I would rather die on the operating table than to live out my life knowing that poison was inside of me for whatever nefarious effect. But that's me personally, and I'm not judging you if you took it. That's the way I feel, and that was the decision that I made. Mr. Richard Reynolds, fishing, cannot wait. Did you see, Richard, that the water is clearing up, and it's not quite so high. The snow is melting to the point where it's starting to drop down. We're starting to get a nice look at the green color. Here, let me see. I'm going to give you guys a look at that. That is fishing color right there. That is fishing color. I better go get some night crawlers tonight. All right, we'll get on that. We'll get on that. Maybe this weekend, this coming Sabbath would be a good time to bring the sweet loaf down here. We'll see if we can get some fish. If not here, we could also maybe go up to the lake if it's not too busy. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. What do you guys prefer? What do you recommend? Give me, are we going to do eggs or worms? 7 for worms, 0 for eggs. Let me know what you want. See, let the majority rule. This is not a republic. We have a member message from Isaac. Welcome, Isaac. Isaac has been with us for 49 months. Shout out to you, brother. You're doing a great job. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Richard Reynolds, goodness, we have a $100 super chat. I gotta do the clap for that. Thank you, brother. Goodness, that is so generous of you. I really do appreciate that. Goodness, Mr. Reynolds, entire family loves your channel. Cannot wait for the fishing video, Fizz. It's coming. You see it. I just told you. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to take that decision out of your hands because really, Richard has been the OG on this. Richard, you tell us, eggs or night crawlers? What you decide, or eggs or night crawlers or power bait. I'm going to give you 3 options, 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is worms. Well, just write it out. I'll forget those and I won't remember. You let me know what Richard decides we're going to use for bait, and that's what we will go with. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And the Sweet Loaf does too. She's been after me. She wants to go fishing. I'll tell you, so there's nothing worse than people talking about their own children, but I'll make it very brief. But this was yesterday, day before yesterday. So look at this. Do you see that log right there, the 2 logs? They're pretty skinny, right? And that's about 40 feet across there, the water. We were sitting down here not too long ago. The Sweet Loaf family, sometimes we come down here in the evening. And I said, how about Papa takes you across the log bridge? I like to I like to teach my children to have courage from a young age, to overcome their fears. When I find out something that a child is afraid of something, I don't throw them into it. That's a terrible mistake, but you start encouraging them. Start putting in their minds scenarios where someday when you're a big girl, we'll go across that. Someday when you have enough courage, Papa will take you across that. That's the way I like to do it. It was been some time since I'd mentioned that. I completely forgot about it. She came up to me, put her little hand in my hand and said, Papa, I have the courage to cross the log. I didn't even know what she was talking about. I said, baby, what log is that? The log down at the river. Oh, I said, okay, well, let us go down there. So we came down here, little hands, 5.5. Oh, those little girls, goodness, melts my heart. We went across the log. I said, you have to touch the grass on the other side to make it count. She went down there wobbly and touched the grass and come back. And of course, that was 2 days ago. Then last night, out of the blue, after supper, Papa would go down and cross the, okay, go down and cross the log. We did it a second time and touch the grass. So she wants to go fishing as well. So we'll make that happen. Thank you. Goodness. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for your generosity. Goodness. Xavier, back in the chat. I don't know if I'll ever get used to pronouncing an X that way. You just don't see it very often. It's a very cool name. I like that name. Xavier writes, hi, Cody. Hope you're doing well. My father has some big thing going on for radio setup. Script, text, Morse code. I will email you on that. I wouldn't even know what it is, and I'm not behind it. You don't need to email it to me. I would send that over, put that in the chat if he has something to offer, but we have a pretty good radio guy. I don't know that it's necessary, to be honest with you. I think our friend Evan over at Radio Made Easy is all on top of that. So I appreciate that, but I don't think that there's a need. We've got in-house super radio guy. But I appreciate that super chat. And we have a member message from ZTJ1611. Shout out to you, who writes, should saved men get circumcised? That's a very interesting question. Well, what does the Bible have to say about that? And what was the context? I don't feel like I'm in a strong position to there's people much more informed on this. I can give you my think so. That's really all I can give you. So take it for what it's worth. Free advice, right? Is that focusing? God made a covenant with the children of Israel that they were to be circumcised so that they stood out from the Gentiles, from the other people. What the motivation was behind that, as to why, I'm not completely clear. Some people say that it's for better health. Sciences disprove that, providing you have access and you take care of yourself and you're not a disgusting pig. I think that it was a way to clearly identify a people and make them peculiar in that way. Something you couldn't hide. Almost a mark to say, to identify you, you are counted among these people. And that was needed at the time. Why? Maybe to draw a very distinct line between God's people and the heathen. Did it make a difference if a young Hebrew that may have been tempted to go and to worship at the temple of Ashtaroth, that when he disrobed, that everyone in attendance knew that he was a Jew? And that was the deterrent for him to practice those horrible religions with temple prostitutes? Maybe, maybe that was part of it. That's something that I'm speculating on. I don't know to be sure. You have to remember, beloved, that if you were among the children of Israel, you had a very particular form of worship. It's all written down in the 66. We know the sacrificial system. It's all about purity, piety, and fairness. They didn't sacrifice children to Moloch. They didn't take young girls from their community and force them as sex slaves or temple prostitutes. You know how they evangelized back in the day, these heathen religions? It's not hard to get a young man to go to church when the worship involved is having access to a temple prostitute. Your church grows. If you don't think so, if you were to start a religion and Sunday service involved young men and all the men having access to temple prostitutes, you would have, well, the offering plate would be quite full, would it not? So you can imagine the lure. God is trying to maintain a people in a very corrupt world. You have people that are sacrificing their own children. They're doing the things that we talked about. God is against this. He's trying to maintain a people and maintain their purity, a religion that ultimately has the responsibility of producing a Christ. And if they can't maintain their purity, and if they can't get to the point where Mary we can have a virgin birth for a Christ, Mary can't produce the Messiah, which ultimately saves all of us, then everything is lost. If they would have been lured away and they had forgotten God, there would never be the ability to produce a Christ. And then we know the consequences of that, right? This is just my speculation, what I'm about to say. I like to think that that circumcision, or that unique individual physical mark upon them, would maybe make a difference or be a deterrent, so that they couldn't, on the sly, sneak in, change their clothing, shave their beard, whatever, make themselves look like the heathen, and go in and partake and enjoy these heathenistic rituals. Does that make sense to you? Is that a possibility? I don't know. Maybe. That's just something that I've considered. Now, is there any application to us today as Gentiles, as the Jews would call us? There's a lot more to that than that. A spiritual Jew is very different than a physical Jew. My instinct, I've made the decision, I would say absolutely not. There's no value of it whatsoever. If there's no value medically, then why would you mutilate yourself? As someone who is not, I can tell you, mutilating yourself or cutting off a part of your body like that is, it desensitizes you. If you take something off that's supposed to be protected, flesh or skin, and now for the rest of your life, 10, 20, 30 years, it's out in the open, it's rubbing on undergarments, clothing, all that, it desensitizes it. Basically turns it into a bludgeon. The sensitivity is nowhere near there as an uncircumcised man. So I would say, this is my opinion, I would say in this current time that we live in, we take showers, we understand personal hygiene and such, it's not an issue. That is not a reason to be circumcised. There are no health reasons anymore. I do not see it as an advantage sexually. And I do not see it as a requirement spiritually. So there are three things going against it right there. And I don't know why, other than just Judaism and wanting to be more like the original Jews. And I think that's going down the wrong road. I think being a Jew, as referred to in the good book, is a spiritual thing. God says, I can make anyone a Jew. Just because you claim to be descendants of Abraham, that doesn't mean anything. Jesus even said that. I could make out of these stones, children of Israel. So my answer on that would be no. But a lot of that is opinion. There may be a devout man of God or a scholar or someone that would be able to pull and make a case that is something, but I have not been convinced of that. I think there's more important things to focus on that. We have enough to worry about with our spiritual well-being and our walk with God without getting preoccupied with something like that. Gamer Dave, it says, our team of interpreters got on it. We tried rephrasing it for you. Apologies to Gamer if it's incorrect. Okay, so the middlemen and our in-house interpreters have tried to decipher Gamer Dave's comment, and I'm going to read it now. A favorite film and soundtrack had a strong effect on me today and moved me to tears due to analogies to my own life. Yeah, that's very true. You know, worship, to speak on that, the highest form of worship is song, is music. And all of us know that. I mean, there's been many songs in art today that have come along that have moved you tremendously, all of us. That we hear them today that take us back to a time of the past, maybe a past love or a past relationship that will bring you to tears. I experience that. I'm a sensitive person. I understand that. Music is not, in the original worship, if we take, what's the greatest thing that the greatest creature that God ever created? Does anyone know? The greatest of the angels, of the messengers? It was Lucifer. He was created to be at the right hand of God, a covering cherubim. He said, I made you perfect in all your ways. He was absolutely God's greatest creation, beautiful. And if you go in and read, there's some physical descriptions of what he looked like when he was Lucifer, meaning light bearer, bringing light before he became the devil and Satan. He was made, I have got the impression from my study and research, he was made almost as a walking musical instrument. And that also when we go in and we look at how worship is done, and been in the past in the kingdom, in the presence of God, worship, music is a big part of it. Music is pure worship. So much so that God's greatest creation, his covering cherub, was created to be a musical instrument. Now we know he has a supernatural ability to be a master musician, greater than any musician that ever lived. And I'm of the belief that the reason why there's so much satanic influence in the secular music industry, and why so many of them profess to be Satanists, etc., is, this is my opinion again, but I believe that if you want to be a superstar, a Madonna, a Cardi B, an Elvis Presley, whatever, you need to sell your soul in some way. You need to give something to the adversary, to the greatest musician of all time, and in exchange for that, he gives you a hit song. Indirectly, through other people, through Confederates that are maybe or may not be working with it. But it's almost as if I think he may have a storehouse of brilliance or creativity that he trickles out to anyone who is willing to pay the ultimate price. You want to be a superstar? If you're willing to go that far and pledge allegiance to me, then I will give you this in return. Maybe it's a hit. Maybe it's multiple hits. But someday you will pay the price for that. So music is very powerful, and anything that God has created for good. And music can be good as well. There are a lot of great hymns that will bring many of us great emotion, even to tears. What the adversary does is he takes everything that is good from God, for example, music, as worship, or even to be intimate with a woman in the confines of marriage, and love is a beautiful thing. He can take things that God created to be wonderful and he flips them. He inverts them, he changes them, and he perverts them. So sex can be good and loving and beautiful, and it can be used as a weapon or as a torment. It can be used for evil as well. It's the same thing, it's the same act, but very different situation. That's what the adversary does. He's not creative. He was a created being. He doesn't have the ability to do what God does, and that makes him very angry. What was it that he wanted when he rebelled in the kingdom, in the original rebellion? He wanted to be God. Can you imagine the cheek that it takes for a created being to want to usurp and to be the creator? God did not give him that ability. He doesn't have the ability to create. He takes things that God has created that are beautiful and lovely, and he perverts them and he twists them. Just like movies, there's very little creativity. There are people in Hollywood now. At once, there were people that were truly creative. The reason why we have all of these remakes and these redoing, rehashing old things that were originally good is because they don't have the ability to create anymore. They take something and they steal it and they try to just run it again. They take someone else's idea and just replay it because they don't have the ability to do it themselves. Satan does not have the ability to be a creative person. He simply takes and perverts God's beautiful things. The rainbow, for example, God's rainbow is 7 colors. From what I understand, the HD TV, LGB, HD, whatever, is 6. As above, so below. Gamer Dave goes on to write, I'm struggling to get up my own hamburger hill in a constant struggle to reach the top with others who went through the same struggle against evil. Brothers, who would have died for you? I'm not sure I understand that. I'm struggling here. If I can, well, we can revisit this. If I can, maybe you can email me and kind of clarify me what it is that you're trying to say. I'm not following. Mr. Tristix, welcome. Mr. Tristix says, I recently saw your short video with your chainsaw you started by releasing the pole, and it started. Was that real or was it a joke? It was a joke. Yeah, it was a joke. It was a joke, but don't feel bad. When I first saw that confused me for a time as well. I was thinking, have I been doing it wrong all that time? I never stopped to think how the pull cord and the mechanism worked and all that, and I thought it was funny. So yeah, so what I did is I just took it and I shot a video where I took the pull cord out of the chainsaw and I dropped it, and it slammed down, and then the saw started immediately, or that's what it sounded like. How I made that is I shot that was the first shot, and then the second shot I started the saw and I just recorded the audio, and then I added the audio to the end of the scene and I pretended like it was running. So no, it was just for fun. And then I took it even further and I turned it off with my phone, so people thought that I'd actually had some sort of Bluetooth connectability to stop the saw with the phone. But a lot of people were fooled by that, so don't feel bad about it. Mr. Tristix also writes with another super chat. Thank you for being so generous. Inspired by your video, I switched to steel tools and I love it. A bit expensive, but worth it. You can't go wrong with those tools. I have many of them. I have, not only do I have the steel saws, I have steel PV, which is another company makes them, Steel brands. And a lot of those tools Steel doesn't actually manufacture, they brand them, but they do source very, very high quality. I would say even the best in many situations. I have a Steel PV. I have a Steel, the 3-file sharpener, which is very good. I have the Steel hookaroon. And I don't think I have any Steel hatchets or axes, but they are renowned for being high quality. A lot of guys that use axes for a living, arborists and stuff, they really like them. They're built very tough, very heavy. I think that they're made in Germany. I think I know the company that makes them, and it's I forget the name of it, but it's the same one that I shared the other day. They make the yellow axe, Oshkenkamp or something to that effect. Probably that company or something like it makes them. But they're very good quality. Anything that you buy, for the most part, there are always outliers, but that has the Steel name on it is going to be pretty well vetted, and you can't go wrong with it. Their axes are really good. They're a bit clumsy for my take. This is a personal opinion. They very much reflect the character of the German people. Overbuilt, built to last, high quality, strong, robust, simple. If you like that sort of thing, then they're really good. The axe heads are usually a pretty large size, especially at the pole. They're unlikely to break. They're just really good, heavy, durable, no compromise axes. But they feel a bit clumsy to me. I look at those more of a blunt pounding instrument than a real fine, precise tool like a Grand Force Brooks. If we take the Swedish idea of building things, or very similar to that would be the French, where things that are a little bit more delicate, maybe a little bit more petite, but are just like delightful to use. I love just the petite nature and the little bit lighter weight and thinner handles of a Swedish axe over a German axe. But when it comes to just doing bashing stuff, splitting firewood, hard hickory, knocking chunks off of rounds, go German. Definitely go German. I like them too. All right, Richard, there it is. Worms, we have it. Richard has spoken. We will be fishing with worms, which I'm glad to hear. I was leading him up to that answer because that's always what is most productive. In my opinion, man has not invented the power bait that is better than a worm on a bobber. We have a member message from Clifton Craddock. He says, how's that 14.5? Any videos on that in the future? No, I haven't had an opportunity to go out and shoot it. I missed my opportunity. The war band went out the other night and did a night shoot under Nods, and I wasn't able to make it. And I was hoping to do it then, so I have not. So we're going to schedule another one. We're trying to get in the habit of regularly getting out and working with the equipment, especially the night vision. That's where a lot of us are lacking. Guys are acquiring it, but we don't have a lot of training on that. So something I'm a little bit weak on. I mean, one thing wearing it around, but nothing to shoot with it. So I'll report back on that next time I fall in and we get out and do a night shoot. We have a super chat from ZTJ1611. Good to see you back again. Thank you for being so generous as well. He says, thank you for your input, Cody. Another question, what would you recommend for an all-natural soap and toothpaste to avoid fluoride and aluminum prayers? Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So let's start with deodorant. Again, these things I share with you are anecdotal in some ways, but I do look into this stuff because it matters. You know how detail-oriented I am. Once I get interested in something, I get in and research it pretty heavily. I am very concerned for you if you are using a deodorant that has aluminum in it, soft metals. Some people believe, there have been many studies believe that aluminum affects cognitive ability and may contribute in some way to Alzheimer's. It's very bad for you. And if you go, and I would encourage all of you, beloved, go in and look at the deodorant that you're wearing and check and see, does it have aluminum in it? If it does, get rid of it. Get rid of it. If you take, for most people, now this is in combination with other things, if you have a problem with body odor and stink, there are two things that affect that. The fabric that you're wearing. If you're wearing synthetic Under Armours, polyester, rayon, spandex, any of those things like that, nylon, you're going to stink. You should not be wearing those clothing against your skin, in my opinion. The only thing that touches my skin is organic cotton, wool, linen, or leather. When I wear those things, I don't stink as far as feet or anything like that. Now, if that doesn't work, and I will challenge you to try it and see. If that doesn't work, a lot of people that I know, and this is very effective, if you take distilled water and you mix it with a good quality salt, like a pure salt crystals of some fact, like Mediterranean type of salt, and you make salt water with that distilled water, make it really, put a lot of salt in there, really make it very concentrated, and apply that to your underarms in the morning instead of the deodorant. You will find that a lot of people, that completely solves all of the armpit stinky problems, and that's a natural, that's not going to leach into your system, and that's going to be almost free to make and a whole lot better for you. That aluminum is dangerous, beloved. Also, while we're on this topic, go into your kitchen. There are two things that you do not want to be cooking with. One is any sort of a pan with a Teflon coating on it. That stuff is poisonous to you. And we've seen the Teflon that is, you know how it gets scraped off after a while and you throw it away and you get another one? Where do you think all that Teflon went? You ate it. That's where it went. Also aluminum cookware. Check and see, do you have any aluminum cookware, aluminum cups, anything like that's holding liquid? PCBs and plastics and such like that. Get rid of that. Get that out of your home. Cleanse it. Be like Jesus cleansing the temple and expunge it from your home and from your life and from your diet. You don't want that. The other thing that will help, you know, sometimes it's not just one thing that fixes a problem. It's multiple deals that give you trouble. When it comes to stink is your diet. If you're eating processed foods, if you're eating anything from convenience stores, if you're stopping in the morning and getting donuts and candy bars, if you're eating GMO foods, if you're eating processed foods, all of that will contribute to you having body odor. The cleaner you eat, the cleaner your food will be. I'm not saying you need to be vegetarian, but you need to be eating food free of hormones and medicine, meat, pure whole foods is where it's at. So if you want to be completely stink free, what's worked for me, clean up your diet, natural fibers for your clothing, and the salt distilled water deodorant mix, and try that. And I think you'll be surprised how effective it is. Mr. Timo Witt. Shout out to you, Timo. Thank you for your generosity. Timo writes, greetings from Germany. We always love our German friends here. When I went to Germany for the first time, I was surprised. There are a lot of rules in Germany. Now, coming from someone that is a little bit more of a nonconformist, even to American standards, I found it a difficult environment to live in and to survive. I've never seen so many rules. I got in trouble. I got into big trouble a couple times. We took a tour of a beautiful castle, a medieval castle, and this was before cell phones were really prominent, at least camera phones. I had my little small Canon ELPH camera, you know, really small. Yeah, when you travel, like to take pictures, film, of course. And we went into this castle, and it was exquisite. The woodwork and craftsmanship on it was on a level I'd never seen before. Nothing I'd ever seen compared to it. And it was amazing. And there was a former East German, and I'm convinced she was East German, quite a large, stocky woman, very outspoken, was our tour guide. And she made it quite clear, and the Germans speak they don't mince words, they're very forceful. She made it quite clear, this former East German woman, that there was no photography. Well, I heard that, and I wasn't really planning on taking a picture, but the moment I was told no photography, well, you could pretty well bet that I was going to be doing photography. I forgot to turn off the flash. I'd forgotten about that. It was dark inside, and I kind of faded to the back of the group, and when we walked into this antechamber, and it was a beautiful ceiling, I thought, I got to have a picture of this. This is just amazing. And I took a picture, and you know how the flash is, right? It's like, as lightning flashes from the east to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. It was like that. Every eye shall see it. Well, every eye saw it, especially hers. And she started screaming in German. You know, she reverted to her native tongue. When you're really extremely frustrated and angry about Das ist verboten and all of this, and who did that? Well, fortunately, I was in the back and nobody ratted me out, and my hands were in my pocket and I didn't know nothing. But she wouldn't let it go, man. She would not let it go. And I did skate. I never got busted, but I don't know what the consequences would have been. So there was that. Then I was driving on the Autobahn. Now, I had never driven on the Autobahn, and as you know, there is, in some areas on it, there is no speed limit. I rented a small Mercedes A-Class. Now, they don't have A-Class over here. A-Class is like a tiny smart car. It's a little tiny thing. It's the cheapest ones, and they have them over there. And so I rented this thing, and they're not particularly well powered. Well, goodness, when you go to get on the Autobahn, you better be on it, man, because you have to merge into people driving at very high speed, and they're quite short. And so you have to, you kind of, you know what it's like, how you have to kind of sack up to fire a 3-inch Magnum, like a shotgun, when you haven't done it for a while. You know what to expect, and you got to man up to do that. You put your game face on and your big boy pants on, and you're all business. You're about to pull the trigger on this thing. It's just like that. All right, so I'm all focused. I'm like, nobody talk. First, I'm going through the gears, man, because I've got to merge onto this thing. First gear, run. You're taking it to the limit, man, to the red line. Each shift, third gear, fourth gear, and hopefully, by the grace of God, you're going to be going at the speed of traffic when you merge onto this Autobahn, and you don't just get completely destroyed. And it's full of trucks on the right side. It's terrifying, terrifying. So I figured that out, and I'd stay in the middle of the lane, Well, another thing that they don't do is they do not pass on the right. It is Das ist verboten. You do not pass on the right, which is actually a better way. It's foolish that Americans willy-nilly pass on the right side. It's very dangerous to know. Now you have to watch two places, where when you're in Germany, you never have to worry about what's going on the right. You never have a threat there. Always to the left, which is fine. So if you're not driving at 150 miles an hour, which I was not. I drive like an old man. I'm not a race car guy. I stay in the middle of the lane. But sometimes you get to the point where you get behind someone that's too slow, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to move to the left. I'm going to put my blinker on. I'm going to move to the left, and I'm going to pass, and I'm going to go fast. I'm going to get out. I'm going to drive on the Autobahn in my little A-class. First time, I look in my left-hand mirror. I see no one behind me for a long, long ways. I see way, way back there a set of headlights, but it's way back there, not something I have to worry about. I shift down. I'm taking it to the limit. I move over. I'm passing. I'm just about passing. I'm going, man, I'm like 120, 130. I've been never driven, and it's a tiny little short wheelbase car. It's pretty spooky. All of a sudden, I'm like, there's something flashing, and I'm like, what? It's scary, when you're going that fast. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I look in my mirror. That car that was behind me, that was a quarter mile away, now is 6 inches off my bumper, mad as hell, honking and flashing, that I'm in his way, holding him up on the Autobahn when he wants to go do 180, whatever he's doing. What I didn't realize was that dude I saw back there quarter miles doing 190 or 180, whatever he was, in a 7 Series BMW, V8 in it or something like that. Goodness, I got around that thing and moved into the slow lane. Well, that's enough for me. That was my Autobahn experience. I don't need to be in the left lane. I avoid it like the plague. I stay over here with the trucks, and I get to my destination in my A-class. Scary, right? Well, then, drive a couple days, get your courage up, thinking, oh, I got this down. You start pushing the limit a little bit more. I see another flash, but it was from the front this time. Like, what was that? And I look, don't see nothing, no problem. Going through a village, right? Get back, there's villages and freeway. It's not all urban sprawl like America does. They actually have urban planning there, unlike us. Come into the next village. Flash! It dawned on me. It's photo radar, right? I'm like, oh, it's a speed camera. And I figured it out, like, oh, you can't drive 180 all the time. You have to slow down when you come into these villages, right? There are speed limits. It makes sense, right? Okay. So I thought to myself, well, good luck getting paid for that. I'm going back to America. They can come and collect over there. They're never going to get a dime out of me. Well, the Germans have thought about that, haven't they? Well, they got it out of me. They just took it out of my deposit for my rental car. So that was my German Autobahn experience. But I do love German people. I wouldn't want them over all the time. I do appreciate them making good products. And I do feel sorry for them, the way they were treated at the end of World War I and World War II. I think it was, I'm not apologizing for Mr. Mean Mustache Man, but a lot of people got treated worse than I think was deserved. Some got what they deserved, though. Mr. Jack Fairman, shout out to you. Jack Freeman writes, I love your videos and work. Trolling the Trolls video. Regarding shoes in terms of footwear for Mr. W, what do you recommend? Mrs. needs a pair. Oh, what does Mrs. W like? Let me read that again. Love your videos and work. Trolling the Troll videos. Regarding shoes in terms of footwear for Mrs. W, what do you... Mrs. W primarily wears Dansko, and she really likes them. And both of us, we're all about, I think it's important, two things that you really need to put an emphasis on in your life is your bed and your footwear. I think you should, because, you know, as we say, you're in one or you're in the other. So get the best that you can afford. You need to have a good mattress. And you need to have good shoes. Don't buy cheap quality shoes. And I'm going to even amend that. I'm going to add a third column to this foundational truth. So these two, there's really three things. Your clothing is important as well, as for the reasons we've discussed. But I would have her look into the Danish company Dansko. They make the tactical clog that you guys see me wear, the world's ugliest shoe, which I don't care because it's wonderful. But they have, for women, they have nice looking shoes. They're sensible. They're not going to bind her feet. They're not going to, you know, some of the ridiculous fashion footwear that women, and the misery that they subject themselves is absolute foolishness. They look feminine, they're stylish, but they're always about quality and comfort and foot health. And so I would look at that, and she will definitely be able to find something. I don't think women should wear shoes that are too tall. I know they want to have a little bit of a lift or a heel, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that to go out for special occasions. They want to look good, or they want to stand up taller next to a tall husband. I get that. At 6'4", you know, Mrs. W doesn't want to look like a hobbit, so she'll wear a little bit of a heel. But look that up, Dansko. Expensive, but excellent, excellent quality, and lots of colors, choices. You can get them in natural fibers. I always try to buy shoes that are leather. Stay away from synthetics. You know, the same synthetics that we don't want to wear on our body, we don't want to wear them on our feet when possible. You know, not always possible, but when you can. No, not Bansko, Dansko with the D. Dansko. They're Danish. The Danes, you know, they're similar to the Germans. They're all about quality, and you know, the Europeans. If you're an American that's never traveled to Europe, you know, you think that you live in the center of the universe, and you think that everything we do is the best. That is not the truth, especially when it comes to quality. When you go to Sweden, or you go to the Netherlands, or you go to Germany, you're going to be hard-pressed to find anything of low quality. You're not going to have the garbage, the trash. Like if a European were to go into a Walmart, they would be absolutely, I don't even have the words for it. They wouldn't even believe it. They demand quality. I didn't know this until I went over there, but being married to more of an international wife, having family, you know, half Swedish, and traveled over there a great deal, I've come to understand that it's so much better. You go into one of my favorite things to do in Sweden is to go into their grocery stores. It's so different. It's very small, a lot smaller. The portions are much smaller, and the people are much smaller too. I couldn't believe it. The first time I went to Europe and spent some time there, living in America, to the Netherlands, everyone was fit, everyone was slim, everyone was, well, I wouldn't say attractive. I love the Netherlands, but I'll tell you that the men in the Netherlands are, next to the English, are some of the most unattractive people I have ever seen in my life, judging by my standards, but very nice and very tall, the tallest people in the world. But the grocery stores over there are fascinating because they're smaller and the portions are much smaller. That may be a reason why they're not so fat and disgusting as Americans. But when I had some time over there and I was in the city, and Amsterdam, of course, is one of I think it's the densest per capita city in the world. There's a lot of people there, but it's very clean. It's a very nice city, and everyone's fit and healthy, and it's quite nice. Very aesthetic is important, great fashion. It's a very interesting place to visit. You should definitely go. But when I came back and we had a layover someplace like Detroit for a couple hours in an American airport where they've got the Chili's and they've got all this stuff, I was shocked at how fat and disgusting Americans were. I had never seen it. It's as if the shells had come off my eyes and I'm seeing it for the first time. I was just godsmacked. My mouth was open. Mrs. W was like, I cannot believe it. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. There is no education like travel. If you want to open up your mind and your worldview and your perspective, you've got to get out of where you live, at least once. Mr. Allen, Wolfkill, shout out to you, brother. Welcome. Allen is just donating. No comment. Thank you. And the Main Battle Toaster, we have a super chat. Welcome back. Main Battle Toaster writes, every man, Jack, and Native deodorant are aluminum and paraben free. Works great, provides you, okay. Public school education rears its ugly head. We need to do a reset here. Pure source water, unadulterated, uncontaminated, as God intended it. Every Man Jack is a brand of deodorant, is what we're getting at here. Are we getting a sun flare? Or a light flare there, lens flare. That's good to know. Every Man Jack. So it's and Native. Those are two brands. So look these up, beloved. If you don't want to go full hippie commune with the salt and the distilled water, look up Every Man Jack and Native. I might even do that myself. Sometimes when you're traveling, it would be nice not to have to go through that regime. Their deodorants are aluminum free, paraben free, works great provided you aren't an unhealthy, smelly beast. Yeah, that comes down to it. And again, there's not going to be a miracle cure. If you're a big, fat, disgusting American slob, then that Handsome Jack's Every Man Jack is not going to work for you, right? You're going to find it to be ineffective. You're going to go back to poisoning yourself with the aluminum trash. Clean up your diet, change the clothing that you wear, get those natural fibers on, and also look to your bedding. What is your bedding made out of? Even if it's cotton, and if it's not organic cotton, that's 70%. That's operating as the frequency 70% lower. Excuse me. Your body is operating at 100. It's 70. It's putting a drain on you. Whereas if it's organic cotton, at least you're maintaining ground. You're not losing something. You don't have a parasitic draw upon your person. Mrs. W. Oh, someone asked me about Prime deals. I just remembered one. Mrs. W has been waiting. Now the magic, the real magic comes from the linen. Linen operates at 5,000. It's basically a healing fabric. The reason why hospitals refer to linens as linens is because they knew before this knowledge was taken from us so that we could be weakened. They knew that linen helped patients recover quicker. And they also know that linen sutures are what are used internally for surgery with the best results. It has a healing benefit. It contributes. Wouldn't that just be like God to offer us a fabric that could help us? And yet the adversary has suppressed this knowledge for us so that we're weaker and sicker and less effective. Beloved, when you start waking up to these truths, you start to realize or wonder, well, if that's true, then how much more in our daily environment is affecting us negatively? You know, the good book tells us that the adversary, he wears the saints out. That we're attacked from so many sides that we don't even know about it. You know, and in the past, I've taken issue with God about this. You know, well, how come I'm just finding out about this now? Why didn't you tell my parents so that I didn't have to suffer as much and I could have had a more fulfilled, abundant life? Why didn't you give this knowledge to the saints? I found out that, well, the knowledge has always been there, but you've been locked in Babylon. You just haven't been willing to listen. And whenever I gave you a hint of this, about maybe eating more vegetables or drinking more water, you put a label on it. Oh, that's some hippy dippy nonsense. That's some granola nonsense. That's what those dirty hippies do. You rejected it and you wouldn't listen. You rejected my Holy Spirit. I'm actually, as I'm talking, coming to an understanding better than I had before. Be careful, beloved, when you are about to, or you desire to attribute some malice to God for being derelict in his duty as a loving father. Do not attribute that to our hard-headedness and our stubbornness. Thank you, Maine Battle Toaster. I'm glad to hear that you're not a smelly beast. Mr. Overton says, anyone else having trouble with speed limit signs? I find if I were to pay attention to the millions of signs on the road, I wouldn't have time to watch the road. Yeah, of course, all by design. You can, who knows? Wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of psychological study done on the size or the color or something about it, or maybe there's a coating on there that it causes you to not notice it. Or maybe it's just that they put so many up there that you just stop looking because you can't deal with all of it. Who knows? Never trust a cop. Never talk to cops. Never trust a cop. Always looking for an opportunity to fit that in there. Not a fan. Thank you, Mr. Overton. Mr. Dickey, for picking a good hairpiece today. That lady must have really... This is somewhat unpopular wash, but to give you the real skinny on it, the best hair comes from the virgin Polynesian. The virgin Polynesian hair is far superior to one that's been ran through. You don't want even if they're Polynesian, force-fed a diet, strict diet of organic coconut oil. If she's been ran through, if she's a 304 and been out in these streets, it will not hold up, especially under, well, the crucible of the cold water plunge. Shout out to you, Mr. Barr. We have a super chat from Alan Wolfkill. Thank you, brother, who writes, I was curious about your Sabbath keeping. This stream might go long here, huh? I was curious about your Sabbath keeping. I attended Sabbath Fellowship in Southern California. That is an offshoot of Herbert W. Armstrong, which I'm not familiar with him. Question, are you acquainted with any of these offshoots yourself? I am not. I am not. I have, as a Sabbath keeper, I was introduced to this truth through the Adventist Church. I came to Christ through the Adventist Church, through evangelistic series, and I'll always have a very soft spot in my heart for them. They were traditionally known as people of the book. And I think at the time, in the environment and the place that I was at, that was the best education that Mrs. W. that I could have got, and really the best introduction into the Word of God. Because for all their faults, and we all have faults, they're very faithful to the Word of God. They're actually referred to, known as people of the book, because they really put an emphasis on what does God's Word say over what does man think. So I appreciate that. I have seen things come into the Adventist Church that overshadowed the original message, perhaps. I think some of the prophecy, the spirit of prophecy, is a bit of a stretch. And as someone that was not born into it and indoctrinated into it and came into it as after 30 years old, I was able to be, I think, more objective. This is my opinion, could be wrong. Whereas something that you've learned and been told your whole life, you just accept it automatically. These things that they accepted automatically, the spirit of prophecy, some of the things that Ellen White said, although she contributed a great deal and it gave some very good insights, is a bit of a stretch. And it was a bridge too far for me. So nothing negative to say about it. Also, they have, some of them, not all, have lifted vegetarianism, and even modest dress to a point where it is a salvation issue. Ooh, I'm about to lose audio. So that's where I came into it. But as far as offshoots, I don't know. Every once in a while, I run into someone that keeps it, but it's very rare, and it's usually a one-off. Oh, I hate to see that red flashing audio light. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. Last one. That's it. Yeah, so to answer your question, Alan, no. I don't know. It's very unusual, but I don't think I know. It's going to become more and more prominent. It is important. It is a salvation issue. It is the fourth commandment. It's the only commandment that starts with the word remember. Why? Because God knew that the Catholic Church will change it. The Catholic Church changed the Sabbath day worship from Saturday to Sunday. And you Protestants follow along, hook, line, and sinker, while the Catholics laugh at you at what a fool you are. And I don't want to hear any of the day of the Lord, any of that nonsense. It is without dispute. It's already been resolved. It is God's day. And I do not see people that willfully, knowing the difference, that continue to not to keep the Sabbath and to worship on the first day of the week instead of the seventh. Sunday is the seventh. Sunday is the first. Check your calendar. It's going to be a salvation issue, and it's very important. And it's one of the most important decisions you make in your life. So we're going to have to revisit this another time. This is a very deep subject that I am very well versed in and very passionate about, and I've come to the conclusion that it must be kept. And I would encourage you to look into it. Beloved, I am very tired. There's 471 of us left. Thank you for hanging on. We have the most devout here. We have the true pro-ho still here. We have true pro-ho that are not here but had to leave because they actually have jobs, so I appreciate that as well. May God, one more. Alan, thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Get squeaking one in there. Please keep us in your prayers. I was under attack last night from my sleep. I'm very tired. Pray that I will have strength to continue on and do the live streams and not compromise and boldly proclaim truth as I know it, and not be so prideful that I won't make a correction or apologize when I'm in error. That's the most important thing. Pray for me and my family. We will be praying for you as well. May God bless you and your families. Oh, Overton, send me something. One more. Nope, that's it. May God bless you all, and Lord willing, we'll see you on tomorrow's stream.